We've got interesting news coming out of Twitter. We heard that Marjorie Taylor Greene, Andy Ngo, the post-millennial, and many others had been suspended for calling out what's called the Trans Day of Vengeance. Well, as it turns out, Twitter is actually stating they're banning anyone promoting it. And because they had to manually go through and remove all of these, some people got mixed up with those who were actually promoting it when they were calling it out. This is the problem with social media censorship. It's been the problem the whole time. You catch everyone regardless of context. And, well, we can't function that way. But the big story here is the active calls for a day of vengeance. Considering what happened just the other day, it is rather shocking that there are still people online actively calling for more. In fact, some advocacy groups are telling people to take up arms and get prepared. They're using this as a rallying cry. So we'll get into all of that and we'll talk about it. But for those that are wondering about yesterday's episode is fully available on our Rumble page at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. Yep. Yeah, it's there. If you're wondering where the show went, it's there. And for people who are wondering why we're not on Rumble, that episode is, as well as many other episodes that, for the sake of clarity, I suppose, I can only tell you to watch that episode in its entirety, and you'll understand why it's on Rumble instead of YouTube. Because of YouTube's rules, we are not going to be able to explain it on YouTube, hence the problem. But it is explained on Rumble. So before we get started today, we have an awesome sponsor, publicsquare.com. That's publicsq.com. It's a mobile app that shows you businesses that support American values. Right now, the most important thing we can do is help build that parallel economy and make sure you're not giving money to people who hate you. You've heard the Daily Wire talk about it. Don't give money to people who hate you. Give it to them instead. Well, Public Square gives you a list of all of these businesses that have taken a pledge to support free speech, American values, traditional family, things of that nature. These are businesses that deserve your support. And if you download the Public Square app or go to publicsq.com, you can be a part of this. We've had the founders on the show before. They're amazing. I think it's a fantastic app. It's a brilliant idea. And with the help of them, of Public Square, we are going to win this culture war. So support these businesses. Check it out. And I also have more very big news. Ladies and gentlemen, Cast Brew Coffee is now available for pre-order. I know, pre-order. They're not going to ship until May 5th, but there's a good reason. It's because when you put the order in, we begin the roast fresh just for you. That's right. We are going to, once the order comes in, everything begins. That's when the process officially kicks off. And so the official ship by date would be May 5th if you order today at castbrew.com. We have 4 different available roasts. My personal favorite, Rise with Roberto Jr. Breakfast Blend. It's a light roast. And then we have Appalachian Nights, which is a very dark roast. It's a robust dark blend. Not quite as dark as espresso, but darker than French. And then we also have a Colombian medium. And we have an and then we have the French roast, which is right up here, which is a little bit more dark. I'm actually thinking I'm gonna start drinking a lot of the light roast with the Rise with Roberto Jr. just because Roberto Jr. is a superstar and he's my favorite. So I'm gonna go with his blend. That is castbrew.com. Hopefully within the end of the next month we will have whole. Right now it's all ground coffee, but then we'll have whole bean as well. Ground is just the easiest to launch. Most people don't have coffee grinders, so we're just selling ground bags of ground coffee. And then we got a bunch more in the mix, a bunch more different blends and things that we like that you're going to really enjoy. But it is officially up, and the physical location is currently underway, and it could be as soon as 2 months. The location will be in West Virginia, so really excited for that. Also, don't forget to become a member at timcast.com by clicking the Join Us button. When you become a member at timcast.com, you'll get access to our Discord server where you will get a chance to submit questions and call into our uncensored after show. So at about 10 p.m., we will be live with an uncensored live portion of the show, which will be available on the front page of the website. And we'll even take some guest questions, call-ins from you guys who are members. So sign up, support us, but very important distinction. If you are not a member currently and you want to get into the call-in section, then you have to do the $25 a month membership. I explained this before, but for those that don't know, we had to create some kind of gate to keep out weirdos and harassment and activists. So if you're a member at $10 for at least 6 months, you instantly get access to the VIP chat room. Otherwise, it's $25 so that we can create some kind of gatekeeping to keep out bad people and bad actors I wish it wasn't that way, but that's the way we have to do it because we have had bad actors come in, try and get us banned. With that being said, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is the lovely Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Hi. Good to be here. This is very cool.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah, it's nice to be here in person versus just watching it online, and it's like a whole thing coming together. I feel like I'm in the Matrix right now. I'm just going to go with that.
All right. Well, for those that aren't familiar, who are you and what do you do?
Who am I, right? That's a really good existential question. So Kimberly Guilfoyle, and you probably, well, some of you may have, or if not, whatever. From television. I'm a former prosecutor, and then went to New York and signed with a bunch of networks. I was on ABC News, Good Morning America, exclusive to them in the morning. Court TV, my own show covering all the big legal cases, because I'm a former prosecutor from San Francisco and Los Angeles, District Attorney's Office, and then exclusive to CNN at night with Anderson Cooper and Larry King before CNN went totally woke and broke. And then went over to Fox News and served there amazingly for like 12 years, helped launch The Five, Outnumbered, 10 New Year's Eve shows I hosted. I've hosted everything from Fox and Friends to all the primetime shows as well, and then served as senior advisor to the 45th President of the United States and also the National Finance Chair for the 2020 election.
Wow, that's a lot.
And a former special education teacher and a former model. I like jobs.
I think we'll need to get into this point at which the culture split completely. And you're mentioning being at CNN before they got woke and went broke. Yeah. So I'll be interested. We should definitely talk about that later in the show, that point at which the split started to occur and when you started to see it. Because you're actively working in these media companies when it's
fascinating to be in those newsrooms and to be in those management meetings and discussions and discussing the editorial, what's going to be in the rundown of the shows, what are we going to cover, what are we not going to cover. It's very interesting to see how this just evolved over time. And I had Steve Cracker on my show, who did a book called recently called Uncovered, and it talked all about what was going on in the newsrooms. He had worked at CNN as well, and just sort of the metamorphosis, covering everything between COVID and the pandemics, the 2016 election, the 2020 election, and how that all has really just shaped what we've seen from like corporate media.
Right on. This will be fun. So thanks for hanging out. We also got Brett Dasovic from Pop Culture Crisis hanging out.
What is going on, guys? Yes, I do host Pop Culture Crisis. My resume is not quite that long, but Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. we do discuss pop culture, movies and television, Hollywood, and a lot of times that is, unfortunately, where Hollywood, politics, and culture all seem to intersect, so it does kind of cross over into this sphere. Happy to be here.
Right on.
Hi, everyone. Ian Crossland here, and thank you for making noise about the Restrict Act, this nonsense act that the House of Representatives has put into the Senate. So I've seen a lot of noise about it. It is the Patriot Act of technology. We need to shut it down now before it gets out of hand. Thank you. And let's keep this moving. We also have Serge Duprea.
Yes, I am Serge.com. Pleasure to see you guys. Let's start the show, shall we?
Here's the first story we have from the Post-Millennial. Breaking, Andy No. The Post-Millennial prominent conservatives locked out of Twitter after reporting on Trans Day of Vengeance. They have this image here. It says, remove tweet violating our rules against violent speech. You may not share abusive content, harass someone, or encourage other people to do so. This is a post from the Post-Millennial on Twitter that said radical trans activists and a DC Antifa group are organizing a Trans Day of Vengeance protest, and they've blurred the day and the location because Twitter is cracking down. Now, I saw initial reporting that Marjorie Taylor Greene had been suspended for calling it out. And the initial assumption was that people who were reporting on this and criticizing it were getting suspended. They were. But what Twitter claims to have been trying to do, I think I might have the tweet here. This is Ella Irwin responding to Ian Miles Chong saying, Ian Miles Chong tweets, Twitter is now cracking down on those who promote the Trans Day of Vengeance poster, which mostly comprises of trans militants who are calling for a day of mass violence. Do not share the poster or you could be caught up in the bans to prevent mass violence from happening. Ella Irwin responds, correct. We had to automatically sweep our platform and remove more than 5,000 tweets and retweets of this poster. We do not support tweets that incite violence, irrespective of who posts them. Vengeance does not imply peaceful protest. Organizing to support a peaceful protest is okay. This is fascinating. This is absolutely fascinating because, for one, we're still seeing a problem of contextless censorship. You know, criticizing this is not the same as promoting it, but the automated censorship can't track that. But more importantly, when I went on Rogan's show all those years ago with Dorsey and Vigigate, I specifically highlighted leftist violence. Incitement to violence was being allowed on the platform. Meanwhile, people on the right were being banned. Now Twitter is actually cracking down and removing left-wing calls for extreme violence. I wonder if this is an inflection point.
Yeah, it's really interesting, fascinating to see how this has evolved and who's to credit for it. Elon Musk, I guess, or some of the new teams that are in there trying to crack down. But it's interesting because we see people like MTG, Andy No, they're hitting them, but only because they put it out there to highlight it, that this is improper to call for trans vengeance and violence like this, which is, you should have a right to be able to call it out and say, this is improper, this is dangerous, it doesn't, belong here, in society. But that then they try to go back and say, no, we just don't want anything suggesting violence, not even anyone criticizing the people who are calling for violence.
I'm not mad at Twitter about this one, though. They corrected it.
Yeah.
They've restored the accounts. They did an automatic sweep. I'm actually curious, Ian's perspective, because you moderated for Minds.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, if you're watching far left extremists, or far right extremists for that matter, thousands of accounts promoting a day of mass violence, what do you do?
I think they did the right thing too, because it's like if someone posts child pornography on Twitter and then other people are like retweeting it and saying, look how gross this is.
Right.
You're still complicit in proliferating child porn at that point. So I understand what they did. They had to rip out the roots. And if you were hanging on the tree branches, you're going to fall down when that tree comes out. But
Well,
they did the right thing by reinstating the accounts.
Right, I agree. It's a
I
little.
agree with that.
It's a little bit more than I would say. I'd say you should be allowed to report on it. You should be, as a reporter, allowed to share this and say, look what they're calling for. You need to know this, because if you live in D.C., I think it's very important you see who and what, who's sharing it and what's being shared.
It's a constant struggle in the administrationship of social medias. How do you report on images and imagery that violates the terms? Because you can't show it. You're violating the terms if you show. You can, but you're violating the terms to show it. You can blur it out, but then you're not really showing it, so no one knows what you're reporting on.
Right.
But then is that censorship?
It's definitely
Yeah.
a form of censorship.
That's the quandary.
Not all censorship is bad.
Okay.
Yeah, if someone posts, like Ian mentioned, child porn, you want censors to catch that and get rid of it and then refer it to the police.
Yeah, well, that's a crime.
Right, exactly. And so the problem is, what we often end up seeing from these big social platforms is protection for left-wing extremist ideology, and then they ban a conservative saying learn to code. Now, my attitude here is, okay, well, it sucks that Andy, Marjorie, TPM, and others got suspended. Twitter did reinstate it. But my view is, if all of these far-left extremists are calling for, and what is it? It's this Saturday. They were calling for a weekend mass violent wave, considering what just happened the other day with that trans mass shooter. Yeah, Twitter's like, we gotta get this off the platform now. So it's a challenge of, if you're reporting on it, you shouldn't get censored for reporting on it. But if you get caught up in a mass sweep to eliminate extremism and then get reinstated, it's unfortunate. I'm not going to cry about it.
It's kind of like a reporter standing on the side of the street while there's a riot and they're recording it, and the cops are like, get out of here. And they grab the reporter with everyone else. They arrest the reporter, then they let him go.
Like drug
That's actually a fair
sweeps.
point.
Like
Fair
drug
point.
sweeps when people get pulled up for in police raids, and then
Right.
some people are there who aren't actually there legally committing any crimes, and then hopefully, if done properly, they're released upon finding out that they're not actually guilty of anything, whether that's possession of some type of substance or a weapon or anything like that. So it feels more like something like that. Also, I did want to ask, is this connected directly to the image that they're posting, or is it keyword search with hashtags?
I think it's the image.
Okay.
And but I will stress this. As much as, look, I don't want anybody who's calling this out and criticizing it to get suspended. This suspension should not be the image. It should be the call for the action.
violence.
And so Marjorie Taylor Greene has two tweets we can see right here. The tweet violated the Twitter rules. They're both removed. They shouldn't be. And it looks like she got a third one that was removed as well. 4. It looks like there are 4 tweets that have been removed, probably because she was saying, hey, this is bad. They should be restored. You should be allowed to share the image. It's then call for violence.
Well, it's like she's trying to call out something that is a call for violence that can be, potential like criminal conduct that also, in my opinion, presents an issue and a real threat to public safety. So when you think about it, I would want to know, if I'm living in that area, that there's going to be this trans vengeance situation, call for violence, no offense, as a public safety issue. If I'm going down the street, if I'm going somewhere, I want to know what's actually going on and be alerted to it in my community. That's the other problem I have just with my background and understanding how these things happen. Someone could be walking into that. They don't know what's going on. I would want to be able, it's almost like a virtual or social media community policing where people are putting it out there. Hey, FYI, look out for this. This is what's going to happen in the neighborhood. You should be aware of what's happening in your community. I don't want to have a mask over my eyes, cover my ears, and not know what's going on around me. I actually do want to be informed. So there's that as well with getting the message out. And I know you have to think about that.
You were a prosecutor.
Yes.
How would you handle people? I mean, there's thousands of people posting this call for violence. I mean, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real problem, the call for violence, but since it's actually an event that is going to take place, then you also, I believe, have a responsibility to let people know and to be aware of it. And then if you're a prosecutor and law enforcement, et cetera, you want to try to control the situation, mitigate the damage, the threat to public safety, mitigate the threat of personal injury or harm to people, of riots, of creating an unsafe situation, which we have seen happen over and over again with the call for situations like this, whether it's Ferguson or, with the hands up, don't shoot, which then turned out to not have, happened, but they said, well, it was important to call this out.
Right.
I'm telling you, it goes on from here and there. And then this is the same situation, but people want to be a little bit more sensitive to it because it involves, trans issues. Like, no, I don't care who you are, how you identify, who you sleep with. You don't have a right to commit violence that injures the community and causes harm to other human beings. That is not a right that you have.
So here's the challenge. The poster doesn't explicitly call for violence. It calls for vengeance, right?
Well, it's got enough buzzwords for people to figure it out.
Do you think you could or should prosecute someone for creating this and calling for this and posting it on the internet?
No, but that's criminal versus civilly. So put it this way. If it's something where there's like a threat of violence, we call them terrorist threats, but that's just the name on the penal code for a lot of this, which is if you threaten the life of somebody and say, I'm going to do this or that or cause, harm to someone and you threaten them, you're not allowed to do that. Okay. And that can rise to the level of a felony. But this will say, well, this is just a poster calling for people to meet peacefully. That's how they'll sugarcoat it. However, the people behind it, if ultimately that event takes place and someone does get injured or harmed, then you're looking at a civil forum where someone can come in and sue the people who threw the event, et cetera, which, by the way, we saw with January 6th, right? So, okay, how did that start? Who threw it? People went. Who was injured? Lawsuits ensued. And it's in the courts, a lot of it right now.
Even using language like vengeance, isn't that just neo-Marxist behavior,
Yep.
right? To just use vague language, which they can manipulate at any time that they want to mean whatever they want, because it's vague and it doesn't actually have any type of implication to it. But we know what it means.
Well, we know what it means because there's rifles on the picture next to the word vengeance.
I mean, even that. But
that would come up in court.
And
Yeah.
and it's the image that we're talking about here. That's why I asked
Especially
about the image.
just following what happened in Nashville.
Yeah.
With these poor children and these faculty members.
Yeah.
There is a clear understanding of what that poster means
There's
for this Saturday.
context. There's context out in the news, in the media, socially, etc. So people put it together.
Well, here's the crazy thing is that trans advocacy groups are still pushing. They're saying, get ready. They're telling people to take up guns and prepare for a fight. After everything that just happened.
It's so insane to me that you would think that because in order to stop the government from harming children, you're going to hurt children. Like that's what this girl did
That's
yesterday.
what it is. Yeah.
She shot up six people, 3 kids, 3 9-year-olds because she was afraid that the government was. I don't know her intentions actually. I've seen text of she said she was suicidal. Could be fake text. I don't know how many hormones and drugs she was on.
DMing her friend and
Yeah.
etc. Yeah.
But that you think that killing people is going to protect you from the government killing people. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's not what they're saying, though. This is an ideological battle. They are looking at look at the rhetoric around Christians and what they think of Christians, and it's kind of clear why this person did this, and it's scary. But let me pull up this next story we have from the Post Millennial. The Post Millennial reports, quote, hate has consequences. Trans group mourns death of Nashville trans mass killer. The second and more complex tragedy is that Aiden or Aubrey Hale, who felt he had no other effective way to be seen than to lash out by taking the life of others. This tweet says, prepare to defend yourself. This weekend has already provided us 2 crystal clear reasons why we need to be prepared to defend ourselves at a moment's notice against Nazis and fascists. I don't want to read too much more into this for obvious reasons, because we're talking about the lengths they're going to advocate for more violence. But that post outright said this weekend, get ready. And they're calling it defending yourself. This is what they do. The far left extremists go around smashing windows and throwing firebombs. And then when the police try to arrest them, they say they're allowed to defend themselves.
Right.
They call the torching of buildings and the beating of people in the streets self-defense. That's what they're doing now with this. I'm worried about what's going to happen this weekend. So I would only say, if you are in the DC area,
Exactly.
you need to be extra careful, be prepared. I don't know. I'm not going to give any advice. Me personally, if I was in DC, I'd get out for the weekend.
Yeah, no kidding. But why not, err on the side of caution? But I'm going to tell you something. This, to me, the parallels are just, it's unbelievable. If you look at the juxtaposition just even between, BLM and the whole, the justified right to violence that they assume and mischaracterize as self-defense. It's BLM, it's Antifa, it's all the same nonsense. And they hide behind their rhetoric and their rights that they say that they have against everyone else, that they are allowed to engage in violence, that they are allowed to loot, to shoot, to harm, to injure, to destroy communities, destroy property, and it's out of control and it's got to stop. And this is just another manifestation of those movements now being expressed in the trans movement.
Another manifestation of that behavior, I think, is NATO, or the way that NATO's been behaving by putting military bases right on the border of countries. And then if the countries get upset and invade, they're like, dude, you can't put turrets in front of someone's front door and expect that you're the one that's under attack when they blow up your turret.
Right.
Like,
reasonable response.
Yeah, they attacked your turret that was attacking their space by encroaching on it. So like, if you can't, that's just this whole playing, getting up in a cop's face, pushing, or getting them to push you and then claiming you're a victim. You got up in the guy's face.
God, I hate that.
If any videos come out this weekend, I urge everyone to pay very close attention to when that video starts. Look for the editing that usually comes to manipulate how an interaction started between law enforcement. Yep. That's always the first thing you should pay attention to, because it speaks to their desire to push you until you do something back, and then they have the weapon they need.
During Occupy Wall Street, there was a viral video that showed several police officers striking protesters, and one cop was swinging his baton like a baseball bat. The occupiers made a propaganda video where they turned the baton into a lightsaber to make it funny and memeable, and it was clever. And then someone later released the full footage showing the protesters attacking the police first, shaking a barricade, trying to knock it over, and then one person hits the head of the cop, knocking his hat off, and then the cop pulls the baton sideways, starts pushing him back. They start hitting the cop back, and then he starts swinging the baton. They cut that out to make it look like it's just the cops swinging at these people. And the funny thing about all this is they started saying, because of my live streams, you can't edit this, you can't fake it, it's raw, it's live. Here's what they do. They would watch my live stream, and then when they did bad things, they'd remain quiet. And then the moment the police attacked, they would take the link, tweet it out, police attack innocent protesters.
Awful.
Because anybody who tuned in at that moment would only see the police attacking protesters.
There's so many ways to lie to people through all bit, like whether it's articles written like lie by structure, where all the important information comes in the last paragraph of an article that's 5 paragraphs long.
Yeah.
In media, whether it's audio, visual, there's 10,000 more ways to lie without actually lying.
Have you seen what Reuters reported about the shooting? Former Christian school student shoots up church and school.
Oh yeah, none of the headlines.
Amazing.
None of the headlines had any of the pertinent facts in any of the main headlines. Lie by structure.
I would like though with this shooting, with this mass murder by Audrey Hale, like just to remember, just to leave the ideology out of it, if you can. It's not about transgenderism. It's about an adult that's drugged up, most likely drugged up, and just made to be crazy by her parents or by her community or whatever.
Mental health issues, and perhaps exacerbated by our environment or hormones or whatever. We don't know. But we'd like to actually find out the facts.
Yes, and don't blame transgender people for this stupid woman's behavior. Like, she's a psycho murderer. That's a person. That's just put that on Audrey. She did that.
Nor should this be leading to any legislation to take away gun rights, in my opinion, because that's going to be a trap people are going to fall into, because they're going to start seeing this as a way to start taking away gun rights, and I don't think that's the right thing to do.
No, she didn't get those.
100%.
Was she... Sorry.
No, go.
Well, I don't know how she got those guns. Was she legally get those guns? What's the story there?
I don't
She
know.
had
I don't know if I don't
two
They said
AKs
locally sourced.
Yeah.
That's all I've
Yeah,
seen.
that a number of guns were like purchased in addition to the 2 rifles. There was the 1 handgun that she had present on her person at the time when she engaged with the officers who responded to the scene. And there were some reports that people are verifying now as to whether or not there were additional guns that were procured. But let me tell you something, like if you get a gun, you get it legally. Okay, there are background checks. There is that. The answer isn't to say, oh, we're going to suspend, rifles or guns, etc. It's like the people who pick them up are the ones that are making these choices, that are doing this to engage in that behavior. How about actually caring more about protecting soft targets and children in schools, because this keeps happening because it is a vulnerable asset for someone seeking to do harm and take life. They're not doing it other places where they actually have armed security and guards. I mean, look at every single instance of this. So when the people say to me, oh, well, this is the problem because the person had guns and they went in there and blah, 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 blah. And don't you love children enough to actually stop and ban these? I love children enough to have like retired military veterans, etc., retired law enforcement come in that would like another job after they retire, go in there to protect children, bring in canine dogs, etc., and harden the target. Then it makes it less desirable. I know this. I was on the shooting team, officer-involved shooting team, and anytime an officer had to discharge a weapon and someone was killed at the scene, etc., I had to come in and investigate and clear the shooting. So I've seen it. I've been there. I've run all the courses myself personally with weapons, a simulator for school shootings, for everything, for preparedness for officers to go in. Okay, and that's what we also need to do. But unless we're willing to make these tough decisions and actually decide that children shouldn't be collateral damage, people who choose to educate children should not be allowed to be collateral damage, then you're going to see stuff like this happen, because evil like this is going to follow the path of least resistance. They will go into that school. They will try to take lives. And there's reports that this person went, oh no, but there was somebody there with security, so then went back over, to this school. Like, come on, like, figure it out. Like, look at the facts and stop being like a hysterical, imbecile saying that the gun did it. Like, okay, well, how about people that get on a train and they have knives or they have whatever and they're causing harm and stabbing people, killing people? Like, that's what happens. And I've seen it over and over again for, 20 plus years of like investigating these cases.
Well, you can try banning knives like they did in the UK, but then people get screwdrivers.
Have you seen that great picture of
Exactly.
like the UK cops, the American law enforcement, they stand in front of the thing of guns and drugs, and the UK cops are in front of a bunch of like butter knives. It's a
Plastic scissors.
But here's the other thing. Like right now, they control the narrative so well. Like if you go to whether it's any celebrity that's talking about this, it immediately went to gun control.
Yep.
Immediately. Like within less than a half a day, they were talking about gun control, and the narrative has already shifted. I remember somebody did before, like after Uvalde talked about what it would cost to get armed security at every school in America, and it was like $5 billion or something like that. And like right after we sent $50 billion to Ukraine, like it just proves to you like who the hell they care about, which is not us.
Well, we got to secure
Great
Ukraine.
point.
Is that like one guard per building? Because there's like
I-
40
no, like-
entrances in some of these schools.
I think the math that they did on it was like 3. It was like 3
That's-
at like
that's
a
not
the
even enough.
average salary of like
I
I'm
think
into
3 is
arming
better than 0.
I think
Yeah.
arming the teachers is one way to go.
or we can give it to
Maybe.
Zelensky. That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll just give it to Zelensky.
Or allowing
That helps.
teachers to arm themselves.
Well, some schools have allowed that, right?
I'm not so sure arming teachers is the appropriate response. I think teachers should be allowed to be armed, but I
Right.
think armed security makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But also, there's plenty of volunteers. If you're just saying, okay, this is going to cost this many billions of dollars, it's just a very reflexive response that I think is just, sophomoric. It's not actually smart in terms of actually analyzing what the economic cost might be, versus actually the loss of life. But these are the same people that say it's okay to abort your baby after it's born, if you get what I'm saying. And I've sat in those courtrooms too with Dr. Phil Gosselin, the maniac out of Philadelphia that was literally
man.
drowning children, babies in the toilet after they were born alive. So these are the same people like championing those causes. It's never too much if it's Ukraine, if it's to promote the murder of innocent children and babies, and too much money if we have to actually protect our children in schools. And by the way, like I said, the educators, there's educators there was a head of the school, whether it's someone who's like the janitor, the teacher, the maintenance guy, like human beings like devoting themselves. My mother was a teacher. I've worked as a teacher. I've worked in some really crazy like schools in San Francisco that had a lot of like, people that had problems with like juvenile crime and whatnot. But, there's some schools in certain areas, they got metal detectors. But like, don't be the person that sits there with your abacus and you're deciding and playing with human beings' lives and children's lives. To me, that's cowardice.
When we're talking about gun control, it's a little bit of an abacus. Speaking of abacus, I have one right here.
I know, I admired it earlier.
It's made of jade. Tim, you tweeted out yesterday, should we consider banning people that have history of hurting themselves?
So I didn't suggest anything. I said, should
You
people
asked,
who have a mental disorder with associated with a high rate of self-harm be barred from owning guns?
I immediately clicked no.
Most people said yes.
Yeah, like 80
which was
plus
surprising.
percent were like, yes, it could be just an emotional reaction to yesterday.
I think
Don't
it
you
is.
think? Isn't that what it is? It's sort of an emotional, visceral reaction to what you see and like getting tired emotionally as a human being because you care of seeing the same thing happen over and over again and you want to come up with a solution.
Well, so the issue at hand for a lot of people is that this individual clearly was suffering from some kind of mental distress.
What do you think?
I think the individual clearly, well, it's a fact that the individual was diagnosed, and I think that's what's been reported with with depression, anxiety, gender dysphoria, things of that nature. I don't know if I care if someone has a mental illness. I don't think Second Amendment allows for you to bar them from owning guns. Someone could be outright schizophrenic. There would have to be a due process adjudication, and after due process, your rights can be curtailed, right? You can be locked in a box after due process. You can have your right to a gun taken away after due process. So in that capacity, we have to recognize the challenge. So a lot of people said, I don't think we should ban guns in this way because they will just pathologize conservative thought. And I'm like, well, yes, they could. And then they will create a court system with the judges they appoint to adjudicate this and give you quote unquote due process. So it'll happen no matter what, with or without the Bill of Rights.
Wait,
Yeah,
didn't they add masculinity to the DSM recently? So eventually,
DSM-5
Was that really?
Yeah, DSM-5 access to diagnosis,
something like that. They added
toxic masculinity. Or something.
I could be misremembering that. I thought somebody said that they added masculinity to the DSM. So maybe at one point, anyone who wants to own a gun, anyways, would be seen as somehow masculine or toxically masculine to them.
Crazy.
So the story was in 2019, they called traditional masculinity harmful and faced an uproar over it. I don't know if it was added to the DSM-5 or anything like
They
that.
made the DSM-6, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm concerned
Yes,
with
we
that
need
whole.
the new version, the update.
By the way, that's the
But it
language.
all
3.0.
centers on the access to diagnoses of the different, disorders that one can have, multiple.
What was
And
the
that's the
first thing you
language
said?
way that they get you to. Remember, it used to be toxic masculinity. Now it's not that. Now it's just traditional masculinity, and eventually it'll just be masculinity at all.
Yeah, I don't
All
think
of
then
it
it'll
will
just be
bad.
men.
You
Yeah,
can't
eventually.
use a potential to harm yourself as a reason to strip people's rights because someone go online and be like, "This world sucks, man. I hate myself," and then they'll be like, "Oh, go strip him of his rights. He's a danger."
I disagree. 5150.
Yeah, but you can go online and complain about how horrible things are. They're not.
But a
there's no-
judge has to sign off on a warrant. If you express something, if you present a clear and imminent threat to yourself or others,
Right.
5150.
They can 5150 you then.
Yeah.
Right.
So just because someone is diagnosed with something doesn't mean they are a clear and present danger to themselves or anyone else. So I do think for someone like this or anyone, the challenge here is the red flag laws. If someone can go and petition the government to file some kind of claim against you to take your weapons, here's the only thing I have against it. It's non-adversarial. If someone calls up a court and says, I believe Tim Pool is a risk to himself or others, they can serve me a notice and then I'll have my lawyer answer it and they can screw off because they need probable cause, proof, and due process before they can deprive me of my rights. But what these red flag laws do is they show up to your house and say, doesn't matter. A
Right.
judge said so. No, that doesn't work. That's not adversarial. The accused has a right to defend themselves in due process.
But that also, you're 1,000% right, and I think it's very disconcerting because we've seen this abuse of process, this lack of due process, and what we have seen recently, just saying, the weaponization of not only the political system but of the judicial system. You have activist judges on the bench. I don't care what side you're on. The point point is it exists. And you also have to be careful who you get in front of. I know as a prosecutor, every time we'd be like, oh, geez, you're going to get in front of, I knew if I was going to try a case in Norwalk, California, they called it no walk. Because the judges there were like, oh, hell no, they dropped a bomb on you. But then there was other ones that was like, nothing to see here, folks. We can't even identify the individual here, has 17 aliases. We don't know who they are. I'm like, how about we fingerprint them and run them through the system? Next thing you know, they're boom, out the door and they're out. That's what's happening in New York now. So it all depends. And where you have these like weaponized like district attorney's offices. When I was at LADA's office and even San Francisco was more liberal, it wasn't like that. But now we have like this whole like Soros, like funding to all these different guys that are very like weaponized activists, and you follow the money, you see who's supported, who's made donations to them, and then you're the person that has an accusation against you, and you would appear in front of that judge, or you would appear in front of that DA, with a case. It's gotten very complicated, put it that way.
It will also price out people who are poorer, right? Because they can't afford good legal counsel.
That's always been the case.
Yeah,
then you get the public defender's office.
Exactly.
But there's some great public defenders out there. God bless. They've tried a lot of cases, but that's roulette. Yeah, that's roulette. You never know what you're going to get.
You think there's a way to balance out the justice system, like judiciously, with according to judges? I think having one judge with all that power, like you're explaining, they can fall.
And also lifetime appointments is another situation with some of them, with the federal judges and whatnot. So it's pretty scary because those people get entrenched in there, and they have these different mission objectives. Like before we used to say Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeal was like where all like justice went to die, because they just had such an activist agenda. And then Trump started appointing some other judges there to like balance it out so people actually listen to the cases versus just like rubber stamping no by.
I want to jump to this next story here from the post-millennial. We got a lot of post-millennial stories today. FBI's former top profiler warns of potential for contagious copycat crimes in Nashville after school shooting. Following such a shooting, O'Toole said that communities should remain on alert for up to 2 weeks due to the potential for copycats. Quote, in 2000, when the FBI released its first report on school shooters, we found that the copycat influence was powerful, and it influenced the 18 cases that we studied. This report was compiled in the wake of the Columbine high school shooting, which claimed the lives of 13 people. O'Toole said that she believed the shooter's manifesto should not be released in that case over fears of the contagion effect. Now, that's a fair point.
Oh, I agree.
But I also want to know what's in the manifesto, because
But they're censoring it now.
Right.
People can't see we're conducting our investigation. But no offense, trust me, part of that is they don't want you to know. So they'll say that. Just like when all the pictures emerged, of her, it was like, oh, take him down. When they said, identifies as, he, him, and they started taking him down one after the next. People were screen shooting him to preserve it so the public could actually see before they could shapeshift the narrative.
Well, here's the debate. If this manifesto comes out and many of these far leftists agree with it, this manifesto could be a direct call to incitement. It probably is. Direct call to violence. So if it is, and I assume it is, should it be released? The alternative is I think we need to know what motivated this so we can stop it from happening again.
You're 1,000% correct. I was literally just going to say that. How can you stop and prevent something from happening in the future if you don't understand it and identify it and study it? I mean, it's just, that's like blissful ignorance going to end in a fatal conclusion.
My concern with the manifesto being released is that it would be doctored and then sent out with a political agenda. I mean, there's no way to trust a document that we see now. Like, I don't want it. Look at the video footage if you want to see what she was doing. Let's get her medical history now. She's no longer has her rights. She waived those rights to medical privacy after she killed all those people.
I agree. I think if they're not going to release the manifesto and they're going to cite copycat fears, I'm fine with it. I will then choose to assume the motivations, and I think it's fairly obvious. So unless they want to present any evidence to the contrary, this is clearly a far leftist gender ideologue who killed Christians because Christians are trying to stop the mutilation of children.
Hate crime.
Yeah, well, even then it won't matter because it'll be called gender affirming care, and it won't matter because the average person who's uninitiated to what's going on in the world right now will see the Christians as aggressors in a lot of these cases because they're going to say, you're trying to prevent these kids. Like, you really do have to be steeped in not just the ideology, but the political ramifications of all of this together. Otherwise, it really does, because of how intricately the media is able to weave these stories together, they will come out looking like the bad guys. And if they can't, the media will just stop reporting on it, like they always do.
If you let yourself play identity here, it'll get used against you. You need to focus on the drug use of this kid, this 28-year-old woman,
right?
And how long she's been on drugs. Has she been on since she was 14? That's the focus. Pharmaceuticals.
Is that proven here? Like
I haven't seen a quip about what chemicals she was using.
Okay. I mean, without knowing that, like, I would have to know that for sure if that was actually part of it.
If she's trans, there's a chance that she's on testosterone.
Okay, so she was actually doing the chemical process. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, where's the news? Yeah. Where I want to know.
That's never going to come out.
Sponsored by who? Who's sponsoring this? Yeah. Who sponsors the networks that are reporting on this?
But that's another thing about, like, medical, safety and getting information out there. Because if there's people right now being really severely manipulated, okay, into being like, oh, who am I? Am I binary? Am I this? Am I he, she, my pronouns, all this stuff. It's like mind-blowing to me how quickly this has happened. And you see a story like this, no offense, you're thinking twice about all of this. I've got to become this person, that person. You hear all the horror stories of people like regretting that they're pushed into this, whether it's by abusive parents, like the book that you mentioned, Tim, genderqueer, going through that, growing up in an abusive, environment and just questioning, your identity, or it's bad to be a woman or it's bad to be a man. Toxic masculinity. Then no one wants to be a man. Now I want to be a woman. Oh, it's terrible to be a woman. Now I want to be a man. I mean, it's insane. The back and forth and back and forth. If you see a situation like this, hopefully people are going to say, wait, I want to read about this. I want to understand. And maybe it gives you some reflection, personal reflection in your life about the choices that you're making and how you're being duped and totally brainwashed by this, by the media and by these groups that actually are trying to literally identify what you might be, despite what you're born, at birth, and teaching people in hospitals to identify, well, this person may be binary, this baby that's like 3 minutes old, or it may be a man instead, or a boy instead of a girl. Like, how is this even happening? This is what they're educating people about.
Yeah, I want to give you a little life hack. Society's going to tell you what they think you are. You get to tell society what you are.
Yeah. Real quick. The Hill and the New York Times and many others are reporting the shooter was under doctor's care for an emotional disorder, but they did not disclose the specific treatment.
Okay, so I don't know what's the legality of if a murderer do they waive their rights? Even a dead murderer, do they have rights anymore?
I mean, what is their right to privacy now that they've committed a heinous, horrific crime? By the way, not open to speculation. Caught on video. Not like this isn't a whodunit. We know who did it. The person died at the scene. Officers responded. Now we're getting this information. The public has a right to know. There should be transparency here for the purpose of public education, to know what transpired here, because otherwise they'll continue to lie and tell us it's this, and try to, modify, shapeshift the whole narrative so that it's something that suits their ultimate ideological, pathway and endgame. And that's why I have a problem with it. I want to know the facts. I want to know the facts. I want to know what's actually in the manifesto. I understand, I guess I have a great concern about, public safety or copycats and encouraging this. And, I had a lot of colleagues, at Fox that say, and one of my great colleagues, a great friend of mine, Greg Gutfeld, says, if you continue to report and do this, it makes highlights for copycats and it encourages people to go out there and repeat these crimes if we're giving it energy, if we're giving it life and breathing into it all the time. But there has to be a balance between responsible reporting to not encourage it and create copycats, and also allowing the public to have a right to know the facts, etc. Because rightfully so, we have become distrustful of the corporate media and the narrative that they push on us every single day, which, by the way, they have proved to not be trustworthy when we find out time and time again that what they told us was bold-faced lies. Yeah. And that's what I want to stop in this country, because this is America. We should be able to know. It's not North Korea or China or Russia.
Is there a precedent for a dead murderer, like their privacy being Like, okay, now that this person's committed the crime, they're dead. We're going to autopsy them. We're going to find out all their medical records. Is there?
Yeah. Well, put it this way. Say, for example, this was a case where the perpetrator was not, DOA, dead on arrival, killed on scene, officer interaction, blah, blah, blah. Then you would say this is an ongoing investigation. And because of that, we cannot release this information because it would jeopardize the nature of our investigation, the legitimacy of it, and our ability to be able to catch the ultimate perpetrator and bring them to justice. You don't have that here. And to your point, that's what you're saying. You have someone who we actually know who committed it, and now we actually need to know why, how this transpired, who else knew there was an issue, what kind of, culpable responsibility there is in order to actually make sure this doesn't happen again. Otherwise, you're going to see the same thing. It's going to be, Parkland, it's going to be Uvalde, it's going to be Waukesha, it's going to be all of these things over and over again without having an understanding that leads towards prevention and protection of public safety.
Who would we petition to get these medical records?
I love it. It's on the case. I love it. Well, I'll tell you what. How about the power of subpoena that Congress has? You've seen this right now. You see it with Jim Jordan and the rest of them in Congress that are calling for transparency. They have the power of subpoena to be able to bring people forward, whether it's the DA Alvin Bragg to understand what he's doing with the weaponization, politicization of the office, or whether it's the Twitter files and all the different investigations they have going on. They're saying, we actually want the information. We want the information. They could call for that here as well and say, we want to make sure we're going to subpoena. We want to know exactly what the hell happened here. We want to know what's in the manifesto. We want to know what you guys are hiding from us. And we, the people and who we represent, have a right to know. With the power of subpoena, you will be forced to comply with it. No one is above the law, whether you're a DA, you're a judge, you're the lead officer investigating this, etc.
You could subpoena the doctor that was on. She was
you
under the
could
care
try,
of.
why not? And let's see what kind of privacy protections. But you should, and you should say what's going on here. Now, of course, the doctor's going to be afraid about personal liability, etc. Did they know something was a crime, confess to them, or the intention to commit a crime, the intention to commit, homicide, and do a school shooting or do a mass shooting like this. And we do know that one friend was DM'd about this, and there was a suggestion that she wanted to commit suicide. Life was not worth living, that she was going to do something really bad, etc. Then everyone says, okay, well, is that person, should they be liable for failing to report? And there's all kinds of protections that go involved with that, whether it's attorney-client privilege, whether it's doctor-patient privilege. But when the person who perpetuated the crime and perpetrated it, commits it, is killed, then how is it that we have a responsibility to someone who is, it's not like an open question of whether they're guilty or innocent.
Yeah,
they did it.
I would be okay with offering immunity to the doctor and even anonymity. I'm not interested in hurting that person. Even if they said to the person, do it. Even if they were inciting it. I don't care at this point. I want to know the chemicals.
Yeah. And what was sort of the cocktail behind this? A history of, mental illness, a history of self-mutilation, a history of like gender dysphoria, narcotics, like who knows? But we do deserve to know, and we should know. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Operate in a vacuum going forward? I don't know. I think it's very dangerous.
I'm getting fed up with the last 20 years.
I think it's irresponsible.
These shootings are getting out of control. I mean, obviously, they're not a controlled situation when they happen. But before 1999, I didn't know about school. They didn't exist in my mind. They weren't part of the natural discourse.
Right.
And to see more than one a year, it's just too much for me.
And if you don't find out the information, then they look for scapegoats.
Well, let's talk about those scapegoats. We have this story from the New York Post. NBC freelance reporter ripped for linking Nashville shooting to Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire.
So insane.
He deleted it, but Benjamin Ryan tweeted, NBC has ID'd the Nashville shooter as Audrey Hale, 28, who identifies as transgender and had no previous criminal record. Nashville is home to the Daily Wire, a hub of anti-trans activity by Matt Walsh blog, Ben Shapiro, and Michael J. Knowles. Journalists. That's what they call themselves. Look, I just don't see. I think a lot of conservatives think this country is still unified, and they're shocked that journalists would do these things.
There was just a thing in the New York Post about how that patriotism in this country is the lowest it's been in human history, like in the entire history of this country. Patriotism and love of country have never been lower.
But what I'm saying is, I think conservatives still believe there are rules. They think there are rules and they demand you play by them. And these people are going, okay, I'll take the tweet down. I'll just not get caught next time. So while we keep trying to play this game of, can you believe these institutions would say such a thing? I demand a retraction. They're sitting in their room laughing, being like, these morons are still playing by the rules while no one else is.
Also, nobody sees the retraction anyways. And nobody ever
A little
sees
bit. They make money off it.
But in general, you post the article first, you get the rage out of it, you retract it later when all of that's passed through, and maybe a quarter of the people that saw the initial one see the
But it's good for them.
one.
That's just clickbait. It's all about the
but look,
headlines.
yep.
They put all kinds of false narratives in, even if they clear it up in the last final 5th paragraph of it. It's so disgusting and dishonest. It's reprehensible to me.
A fake
People
article.
aren't journalists. They're propagandists.
A fake article will get 1 million views. And then a week later, the retraction will get another 50,000.
Exactly.
That's 1,050,000 views for their bottom line. It's all ad revenue.
Did you say this article got taken down?
No. His tweet. He deleted it.
And they post those articles knowing they will likely have to post a retraction later, knowing that if you're a propagandist, you got your word out there initially. Sure, you have to retract it later. Sure, maybe a quarter of the people see that, but that's another, that's the rest that didn't.
Who gets the win?
Exactly.
But
they
get the win.
By numbers, they get the win.
They get
Think
the
about
win.
what this tweet really means, though. Of course, this reporter is trying to frame it in a certain way and link them. But I'll put it this way. If Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, The Daily Wire, are saying this is bad, this is dangerous, and we need to do something about it, and then a trans person goes and shoots up a church and school, doesn't that prove the Daily Wire correct? That we need to pay attention to what's going on? We need to help these people and prevent these tragedies from happening?
No, you shift the narrative and make it about gun control and say that people shouldn't own guns, and then immediately people forget.
But,
I think the
real answer is yes. Yes, we should. It does prove that there's a big problem right now with drugging up people.
I think the gun control narrative is a useful tool for Democrats because it gives you a never-ending problem. Something that can never be solved. 3D printed guns exist. And what ends up happening is the Democrats come out and they say, we're gonna solve this problem. And then they ban some weird random thing completely unrelated to anything. Yeah. Then they say, we did it. Did anyone, I saw someone talking about how there recently was gun control legislation just signed by Joe Biden. Plus we had the ATF rule. Did these things matter at all? They're talking about how one of the weapons, it was 2 AR-15s and a handgun.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, you guys in the chat correct me, pretty sure one of the weapons used by the shooter was an AR-style 9mm rifle. So it's not like a 5.56 or anything like that.
Yeah, it's
so
an assault-style rifle. Assault-style, which means nothing.
Right. And it is really annoying how everyone, the Post-Millennial and the New York Post, are calling them assault rifles when they're not.
No,
AR style means
it's trigger
rifle
semantics
style.
every single day. That's what they do. They use these buzzwords. They're like, okay, we're going to trigger everybody with this. We're going to say it, and they know it. Words matter, and they use these words to alarm and to stigmatize people and create a whole panic situation. And like 99% of the people out there that are doing this whole total hysteria, even Nancy Pelosi came back from the dead to make a comment about this. Freak show, Tales of the Crypt. And yeah.
Hey.
I don't know. I was related to her.
There you go.
My
Let's
aunt.
talk about that.
Gavin Newsom.
Nice.
Yeah. Thanksgiving. Nice.
Wow.
But I call out the nonsense. I don't like people who are dishonest. They don't tell the truth. They're saying something to achieve their ideological agenda, their objective, and they will do it at any cost. They don't care if they're sitting there, telling a lie to the public. Everything is a disinformation, campaign. It's massive propaganda. And by the time we figure everything out, you're literally whatever, or there's a retraction, or we actually find out like Twitter files or whatever, the damage is done. Nothing to see here, folks.
And nobody sees it. Like I had to tell my dad about the Twitter files and explain to him like just how big of a deal.
And this happened.
Yeah, like you have to explain to them how big of a deal something like this is because
and then when rated him.
And most of the culture, whether, not just boomers, but a lot of people still, they put that faith in legacy media and in what they believe to be pure truth, or why would they lie?
Right.
Not understanding that for-profit media like that it's baked into the business model to lie.
It's 1,000%, but it's also incentivized because it works. It actually creates profit because they get people clickbait to click on it, and that's it. They don't care if they have to retract it later.
Was it like
There's
that
no consequence.
in the early days?
It's way, way worse now.
When did it shift?
You know, we had kind of mentioned this before, but like when you went through, I think 2016 election, because of the whole Trump derangement syndrome and all the insanity that people like flipped out about that. Then we went into 2020 election, everything that transpired there. Then it was the lockdowns, with the pandemic leading up to 2020, people all at home, newsrooms changed. No one was in the same room like we are right now today going over stuff. And then you had a lot, quite frankly, of the young people out there that were working in some of these jobs, et cetera, and like a very vocal minority talking about how this made them feel or that made them feel, or, they were upset. Remember the Tom Cotton stuff in the New York Times and the editorial? And then everybody was rioting at the New York Times saying, we were so disgusted to work for this news organization. How dare you? You put this, opinion article up that he had, and it became that whole thing. And it really developed the perfect cocktail of the group think. And that's what's sort of taken over. It's just like a complete, sort of like a parasite takes over, right? You have a host and you take it over. That's what's happened now in terms of the thinking.
Just want a quick correction while we're still in this segment. People are mentioning it. The weapon used was a Kel-Tec sub 2000 carbine 9mm variant.
Yeah.
So important distinction.
So you're saying that a lot of this disruption in media and I don't know, crackery or whatever you want to call it, this breaking of the narrative is because the newsrooms are diffused? You're no longer in person working together?
I think it's one of the ingredients to the chaos cocktail, where it's like you have that, you had the pandemic, people not together, and to be quite frank, like just all the response to like Donald Trump and what he did and being an outsider and someone coming in that wasn't part of that political, establishment, right? But to be fair, you saw the same thing. They didn't like it. They stole from, Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders was not part of the establishment. They wanted, Hillary Clinton, anybody, but Trump, someone that they could establish. So when you actually see, they're very similar, the two sides. They mirror each other in the establishment, the way they want to control people and the way you think. And if you're not someone that beats to that drum or plays inside that system, you're an agent of chaos, and they will do whatever it takes to destroy you.
Bernie bent the knee and shifted his policy positions. I just think there's no moral character there.
I think there's no moral character there. He actually stood and believed in something, and then he showed himself to be, sort of a false prophet, not someone who actually stood for his principles and what he believed in. He also, essentially let the DNC and everyone take the nomination from him and gave it over to Hillary Clinton.
Or Joe Biden.
Well,
they had
both.
They had all the moderates drop out at the same time and then endorse Joe. And then surprise,
That's called collusion.
They get offered those cushy jobs.
Right.
You know what I bet? I bet they went to Buttigieg and said, "Look, we'll make you transportation. We'll give you some do nothing job. I don't know, something like transportation secretary."
1,000%.
And then he's like, "All right, works for me." And then, now he's got to work. That's why he's nowhere to be seen. That's why he's not doing his job.
Right.
So that's why there's all those train derailments.
Yeah, probably.
The deals were cut, but that's exactly how it works. It's establishment, whether it's in left. I know. I spent years being like a front row seat to, leftist, liberal, Democrat agenda, even though I was a Republican. I guess I was like a sleeper cell in there. And then I went on this side and I see it. So I see what the two extremes are like and what they want to put together. And they're not that different in terms of wanting to be able to control the people within the party. They're going to play the party game and not buck the system or the establishment.
I don't trust either side.
But that's what I'm saying.
I don't trust Fox News any more than I trust CNN or MSNBC.
I'm not telling you should. I'm not
Tucker
telling you
Carlson's
should.
pretty good.
I do love Tucker.
Yeah, Tucker's pretty good. Everybody
I love
else, I don't
Tucker,
know.
and I love my team on the 5.
Greg is good. Gutfeld.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
They're very good. The 5 is very good, except for the
especially
some of
Juan
the
Williams.
But the 5 is also
in the early days, people could tell me I was like Juan Williams. I don't know who he is.
That's a trigger word.
That's
for me.
funny. Were you on that show?
Yes, of course. I helped. I co-hosted the 5. And Juan Williams. Don't even get me started.
I can't stand the guy, but I really do like that he's on the show.
Yeah, well, they have put him on every once in a while now. He's sort of like, because, whatever.
Does the dude even have Google, is my question.
I don't know, but he doesn't really care, because I would say, where are you getting that? What are you saying? And he was just like super angry and just had all this vitriol about stuff. And I was like, have you even met this person? Do you even know what you're talking about? And like, look me in the eye when you're talking to me. Whatever. I liked Bob Beckel. Because he would say, and I go, Bob, what the hell? I go, where are you getting that? I go, you just made that up. He goes, yeah, so? Hey, what do I care? You know, because he like ran Mondale's, like he got like he won one state. He goes, and I had to pay for it.
Wow. let me ask you though. So you've been working in politics and media for a long time. And in the past 10 years, we've started to see this dramatic shift, right? You worked at CNN, right?
Yeah.
With Anderson, and now CNN, they went absolutely insane.
But they weren't like that. I'm telling you. And people know.
Well, no, I know.
I mean, go back and look at it. Larry King, we covered all the legal cases and political cases. Anderson Cooper, I've always actually personally really liked. We got along really well. He recruited me to come, to CNN, and they weren't like that. I worked with like Wolf Blitzer, and Lou Dobbs was there at the time, and it was like a normal place, and it was actually kind of cool, to be there.
I used to watch CNN. I used to have CNN on 24/7
Everyone did.
because it would give me the breaking news, and the breaking news happened.
Oh yeah,
But
CNN
then-
headline news too was good.
But then one day, I noticed all it was panels talking about Donald Trump.
I know.
And I
Became
switched to Fox, and
so
it was
redundant.
Iranian protests. I switched to CNN, Trump. Switched to Fox, terrible weather coming your way, storms and disaster.
Fox News Extreme Weather Center.
I got to ask you, for a lot of people who have only seen this from the outside, I'm wondering, what was your experience inside watching this weird polarization and this shift happening, not just in news, but in politics, especially considering your work in San Francisco?
Yeah. It's so interesting because I was first lady of San Francisco, right? Because we're not going to try to hide this. It's like on the internet.
But
I was married to Gavin Newsom, who's the governor.
But at the time,
San Francisco wasn't even that bad then before. A DA's office was good. Mayor's office was good. San Francisco was clean. It wasn't like your right privilege and you get like, a gold medal to like defecate on the streets in front of kids. Like it wasn't.
But you were married to the man. Clearly there was something good and that you saw in all of that that's not there anymore.
Okay, well, yeah, I saw somebody that was very hardworking and actually really cared about people, really embraced the idea of being a public servant like I did, working for the district attorney's office and trying to do good and do something incredible for the community. And that all involved, actually, law and order and making sure there was not like chaos in the streets, that they were safe, that communities were safe, that children could walk to school, that, people could, raise their kids in different communities. You could invest and buy something that added and increased in value, right? Live your American dream, all the above. San Francisco, absolutely beautiful place. We did Care Not Cash. Gavin Newsom did that.
What was that?
Care Not Cash was we're not going to subsidize addiction and polysubstance abusers by sitting there and giving them cash to just feed their addiction and kill them, to just essentially be an accomplice to take a life, to actually try to battle back, to give people, drug counseling, treatment, get them clean, help them with getting a new job, helping to reunite, family reunification, whether, if they ended up in the court system, et cetera. We'd have drug court and help people actually through the process and care about them instead of just like throwing a buck at it and saying your life isn't really mattering to this community. We're just going to put you to the side for a second here, et cetera, et cetera.
So my question is, with all of those good things you were seeing and doing, did you actually witness the brain slug enter Gavin's ear and take over his mind and turn him into whatever it is he is today?
Sad.
Figuratively, right?
Stop
But
it,
maybe
yeah.
literally, I don't know.
It couldn't have gotten through the gel with the hair.
The gel. But how did he go from being...
I'll tell you, because there was a whole movement that became this super like liberal left, like woke agenda that is extremely persuasive and aggressive. And if you're not going to stand on principle, like they'll tsunami over you. They will destroy you. I literally had people coming to my house where he and I lived, protesting, lighting sofas on fire in front of our house. I would have to go out there with the hose, and I didn't care. I was like, you're going to come to my house? Like, now you're doing an aggressive act against me, and now it's you and I. Let's go. So I'm like, shooting the hose at people. They're ringing my doorbell all hours of the night. They're like, Gavin Newsom doesn't care about anybody. He's like, Attila the Hun. You have no idea. The narrative was so different. He was the most conservative person and moderate, like responsible about taxes and incredible programs for small businesses, all of the above. Then we saw people come in like the quote bicycle coalition. You cannot believe the power of the very vocal minority that comes in with their really weaponized agenda and how they will spend their entire lives to destroy you and try to make a point across so that they become the loudest noise that you cater to. And I've seen it happen over the years. And we've seen this with the woke media and what's gone on. And you see it also, quite frankly, with, the mainstream, like corporate weaponized media now doing the exact same thing. And it's just happened, one vicious cycle after the next. I will say probably the ascendancy of Donald Trump helped feed this, in that people became so upset, so deranged, so obsessed, like addicted to Donald Trump and Trump derangement syndrome. I think it's 1,000% real. We've seen it across all the different election things, campaigns, events, all of the above, that literally they're like, we have to move like in unison against this one, entity, dangerous like force and movement in the country. And so it was just a complete slingshot of aggression back in the other way, to try to stop it.
California orders skilled nursing facilities to accept coronavirus patients, from the LA Times, April 1st, 2020. I don't understand how, when you look at Newsom, Cuomo, I think Wolf, what other, was it Murphy? Was that one of the governors? Whitmer.
Yeah.
They were putting COVID patients into nursing homes and killing the elderly. And Newsom is one of the governors.
No, listen, it's very upsetting to me. He and I still have actually a very good relationship. I've had to clear up a few things recently with him. He enjoyed a very good relationship with Donald Trump. He even went so far as to say promises made, promises kept when DJT went out there, for California, for the fires. He went out with Jared, et cetera, giving relief there, working cooperatively together. But now, find themselves on more kind of like polar opposites. There's a whole looming election. There's the chance if Biden runs, or is Kamala, is Gavin Newsom going to run? So it becomes obviously, incredibly complex. Let's see if my ex-husband runs against my future father-in-law.
I don't want to just keep harping on him, though. I'm curious about, what was this cultural shift in media and across the board that, just to elaborate on the experience for me, when I started working at Vice, I wanted to be there because they were edgy, because they were not establishment. Shane Smith, the CEO, had gone on Colbert and said, look, we're not left, we're not right. We don't want to do any of that. We just want to tell these stories. And then within a few years, I saw the transformation happening. I'm like, I'm getting out of here. And then I went and worked for another company that was new. And then within 8 months, boom, they were getting woke. Of course, they went broke, laid everybody off. I'm just curious, your perspective on how this happens to these companies.
I think, okay, I'll tell you this, because I also had worked at, MSNBC, but like filling in, doing analysis and, filling in like primetime anchor, like for Dan Abrams, I was part of his show. Everyone was trying to kind of do the same thing, right? Except Fox, was definitely more conservative for sure. But they're not even that conservative these days to begin with. You know what I mean? Tucker's fantastic, I think. I like the Five, whatever. But MSNBC made a, conscientious decision from a management perspective to go ahead and be the counter programming to Fox News. That's what happened first in terms of the big, cable news networks. Then seeing the success that MSNBC was having in the counter programming, like you have to remember back, there were nights like Rachel Maddow, Oberman, everybody doing incredibly well in the ratings, like giving Fox a run for their money. Okay. And we were like, the engine that couldn't fail. We're like propelling forward with like smashing ratings. Then CNN saw what was happening with MSNBC and decided they would follow suit. So then you had someone like Jeff Zucker, who was super Trump, The Apprentice, everything, besties at weddings together, all of the above, come in and try to push CNN to that extreme when, Don Lemon, Cuomo, who, by the way, I worked with at ABC News at Good Morning America, was not this person that was like a super leftist or anything like that. But it becomes that reward. You know what I mean? It's like classical condition. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, it actually worked out well. I'm going to continue to do that. So you saw CNN do it, but they were late to the game. That failed for them as an economic model. Okay. And it didn't work. It didn't ring true. They weren't able to capitalize on it. And you saw their like online thing, the CNN digital, total collapse, no infrastructure, no authenticity. And then layoffs, Zucker gone, all of the above. So CNN's in a free fall with like horrific ratings right now, right? It began to like drop down with MSNBC. You had the pandemic, you had Trump. You had all these movements, and you had the mainstream media, the print journalism, also being very aggressive, trying, following through with that to say, like, this is not what we want, and making all these constant attacks and attacks. Then you also saw the political process weaponized against conservatives, against Trump, with all these different investigations that later out turned out to not bear any fruit, right? But it's actually what paid for them to continue editorially to go after him and demonize.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. They were making it happen.
Right.
No, the only reason anyone was interested in pursuing it was because they were getting pressure, because the media, it was a swirling toilet. It was a flush sending us down into the sewers of politics.
You were advisor to Donald J. Trump?
Yes. Senior advisor.
What I got from looking at it now, looking back, is that he came in and, without even realizing it, posed a threat to this change of guard from the liberal economic order to the new world order that they're trying to create, where they don't want American military bases. They want to create some global technocracy.
And he
now.
wasn't part of the establishment.
It seemed like he didn't know that he was in the way. Like, he ended the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which I thought was a brilliant move for American sovereignty. So now these Malaysian oil companies can't sue us as citizens.
And
That's
he held
good.
NATO accountable.
But that pissed off this oligarchy that wants the transition. Did he know that he was doing that, or was he just doing what he thought was the best for the country?
I'll tell you something. He does what he thinks is best. He'll listen to your opinion, your viewpoint. He'll make a decision, but he actually will analyze it and decide. But he operates from a businessman's prism and perspective. So, and we haven't really had like real businessmen, occupy. We certainly don't have one right now. He doesn't have any business experience, Joe Biden, right? And we see what's happened with the economy and whatnot. But Donald Trump approached it like that. He's like, well, why are we giving all this money to these people? They're not paying it. Why are we giving all this money to NATO? They're not contributing anything. Why are we giving this money to China? Why are we doing this and this and this? And he actually asked the questions. Like, why are we doing this? And then he would get the answers and then, decide what needed to happen in order to represent America's interests. He doesn't apologize for being someone that represents the United States and what our best interest is for the American economy, for manufacturing, for infrastructure, creating jobs and economic opportunity across the board, taxes, etc. But he operates from a different perspective. He looks at it like, what makes sense to me? And I'm not just going to do it this way because the establishment, left or right, has been doing it this way forever.
It seems like he posed a threat to this transition of order. And so they were like, crap. We can't tell people that he's a threat because they don't know that we're doing this. We're doing it kind of undercover. They don't know we're transitioning from the liberal economic, that we're selling out the American power structure to create a global power structure.
Right. Just like the Paris Climate Change Accord, all of the above. That was like, hey, all the good old boys, let's all play ball, bro. We're all for the environment, blah, blah, blah. He's like, what the hell? Why are we paying into this? What are we doing for that? I'm like, Jesus. He's like, China's the biggest polluter and they're not paying it down. Why are we paying all this money and kissing everybody's ass? He goes, F that.
It looks like
that's how he talks. He's like, this is no way.
It looks like what happened is they were like, he's a problem. We don't want to tell people why. Introduce identity politics.
Right.
And then he bit and he fell into it. Yeah. And he started talking about leftism. And I'm like,
I
God.
disagree.
Well, actually, didn't he not start getting traction during the campaign until he started tweeting more stuff like that?
He started tweeting about leftism in 2017.
Yeah. Okay.
It was that I think that what happens is the culture wars started just slightly before Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street absorbed a lot of this stuff.
That's a good point.
And then you got Gamergate in 2013. And so a lot of people started experiencing this cultural phenomenon, this shift. I went to a Trump rally I think it was in Wisconsin somewhere. And I asked some older folks, I don't mean old, but 50s.
Right.
And these guys were like, look, Trump's talking about bringing jobs back. He's talking about helping the union guy. He's talking about helping the working guy, securing our borders. I'm all for it. And then I talked to some 20-year-olds and they were like, he's against political correctness, and I respect that he speaks the way he wants to without fear of censorship, and we're really worried about what's happening culturally. I think that greatly benefited Trump.
Both are true.
Early on. And so I don't think it's that he decided, hey, I'll use this. I think he was the avatar of the rage of the working class and those who were sick of the hoity-toity political, just leftist
and
culture
the whole
stuff.
forgotten men and women that were left behind, which is true, but they were left behind by both parties, and he makes that very clear.
And I saw that when I went to Florida. A woman told me. I asked her. I was in Fort Lauderdale. I can't remember exactly which rally it was, and I asked this woman. I was like, "So you're here to support Trump? Are you a Republican?" She goes, "Oh no, I've never voted." Right. And I'm like, "This is the first." Like, yeah. She's like, "I've never cared for it, but he's finally speaking up." And the reporting at the time in 2016 was that areas of the country that traditionally weren't really Democrat or Republican were lighting up and turning Republican because finally someone was speaking to these people. So what I think right now is to go on what you were saying, Ian, about
them relatable.
Absolutely. And to elaborate on what you were saying about the threat to this order, I think you've got elements of the U.S. government that want the U.S. to fail. Donald Trump gets elected, and I think, his whole strategy is, here's how we're going to help America survive and rebuild it. And that's a problem for those who have investments in foreign countries. I'll put it this way. You got these guys in government who have effectively put options on the U.S. economy.
Yes.
And Donald Trump is now jeopardizing their bet against America by making it stronger. And it's making these people very poor. They're very angry about it.
I got the feeling that he didn't realize that he was doing it, that he was threatening some secret transition. I don't know if he knew. I don't think he knew. It felt like he was just doing what he thought was the best for the country from the base.
I think he knew that it was going to piss all those people off because they certainly called and complained. A lot of people, he had people on both sides, and believe me, they called and talked to him and whatever. But at the end of the day, one thing you're not going to do, you're not going to be able to successfully bully Trump. You're just not. He doesn't care. He's going to do what he thinks. He tells you exactly what he thinks, and he's going to do what he says. That's how he is. And sometimes it may be frustrating. You're like, whoa, wait, we got to win here. Don't say anything else about that. You're never going to win that conversation with him because he's always going to say, trust me.
But if he's always going to react a way, you can use that against him and get him to do what you want by giving him the opposite.
I think he is unpredictable. I really do.
I agree. I do agree with that.
Unpredictable.
One thing
because he'll change his opinion. Believe me, he could be in here right now, and you could say something to him, and he's like, and he's going to think about it. Then you could come and say something to him, and he's going to think about that, and then you're going to see where he comes down on it. It's, and you can't imagine whoa, I didn't see that come. Why didn't he go this way on that or blah 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 blah? And he has the way he processes and he thinks about things, and he's a very confident person, meaning he knows what he wants to do, what he thinks, and he's going to do. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what he thinks is right in his mind.
I wanted to say, hey, Don, hello, and thanks for letting us psychoanalyze you on TV.
Is he going to win in 2024?
I think so.
Yeah.
I especially think with everything that's transpired now, what's gone on with the investigations, with the district attorney's office coming after him, whether it was, Mar-a-Lago and the insanity. And I remember that night so well, of them coming in and, storming Mar-a-Lago. How insane is that? And you're going through Melania's closet, what is wrong with these people? Seriously, if they can do it to him, guess where they can come in? I love your sign in the front. No trespassing.
Yeah.
Right? And police, if you're coming in, you better have a warrant. I was like, I like this. I mean, but it's true, right? I mean, this is America, and that you have to stand up for what you believe in. And if you think it's okay that they're going to do this, it's time and time again on President Trump. And where's the evidence? Where's the evidence of any of the wrongdoing? And then it's Joe Biden is sitting there living his best Corvette summer with a box of Docs in the garage with crackhead Hunter and China foreign. You couldn't make this up. People would be like, whoa. They'll be like, what medication are you on that you wrote this script? Because no one will believe it. No one will believe it. But it's actually happening in this country.
I do worry that enough people are even getting this information. The amount of people that didn't hear about Hunter Biden just because of the media's ability to
censorship,
to censor it or to prevent it from coming out at a politically expedient time. I think the biggest uphill battle isn't just
they did that to affect the election.
Yes,
well,
that's what I'm saying.
They censored the New York Post tweets on Hunter Biden, and now how many years later we're finding out it was actually true. There was veracity and truth to it. There was evidence to back it up. There's evidence of foreign dealings. There's evidence of being in bed with China and $1 million here, there, whatever. I'm like, come on. Come on. And so why is that guy still running around?
I got to ask about Ron DeSantis.
Who?
He's this guy. I don't know if you heard of him.
Ronnie D.
He's over in Florida. He hasn't announced, but obviously everyone thinks he's going to run. What do you think? Do you think, obviously you don't think he's going to win because Trump's going to win?
Well, listen, you're asking my honest opinion, and I would tell you. And right now, in this moment in time, I think 1,000% Trump is going to win the primary. He will be the nominee. And I don't see anybody. I mean, do you? I mean, let me know.
No, I completely agree.
Let me know if you know anybody or think that there's anybody on the left that can beat Trump in the general election. If you have a legitimate election where votes are cast and one vote, one whatever, just saying, right, how the whole system works. And I go and put my vote down. There you go, ma'am. Thank you so much. Boom, 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 boom. Who, now that you have Biden in office and you have that juxtaposition and you see what he has done and been a total abysmal failure, nor did I expect anything else because he doesn't have the business acumen or the experience. He's not a CEO. He's not a businessman. He is a failed career politician of 50 years sponging off the backs of the taxpayers. That guy, that dog don't hunt. Okay?
Agreed.
There we go. Then you got Kamala Harris, who I worked with in the DA's office. All right. Now the whole world knows what I already knew. Okay? That she is completely incapable, incompetent, and actually kind of Fright Night terrifying at times. Like, it's not good. The cackling laugh and whatever. Halloween should just come one time a year.
Didn't she not even get one
delegate? And then Gavin,
delegate?
woohoo! Who wants any of this?
I think
you want California?
Kamala didn't even get one delegate, right?
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard got one, pretty sure.
I like her.
The only
Well,
person
so-
I think could beat Trump is Michelle Obama. I don't
even
know
know
if she has
about-
any aspiration to even do it, but she's just famous and has that name.
Right. There was people like Michelle Obama or Oprah
I don't even know if I buy
Winfrey.
that anymore because we're in such a highly politicized time. The Obamas succeeded like vastly on the idea that we just didn't talk about how bad things were at the time. And if you're not politically aware and you're not paying attention to what's going on, you just assume that everything's going good. And I think that is partially to do with the fact that the media pushed what we would call now globalism, but was a neoliberal policies on the world. So you just assumed if you weren't paying attention to politics that everything was going good. The world isn't like that anymore. We're highly divided right now.
I think if the election were held right now, Donald Trump would win. Based on the economy, and that's the biggest factor based on what's going on with Ukraine, the wars. We're at a point
What
where...
happened in Afghanistan?
Absolutely.
Abysmal.
people have already forgotten
Abysmal
about
failure.
that.
And Trump said all of this was going to happen when he was campaigning. And here we are now. I think it's you can get a Joe Biden in when no one knows what to expect. But now we know exactly what to expect, and it's apocalyptic. Trump's going to walk in and be like, remember 2019? Remember the economy? Remember how much money you made? I'm going to bring it back. And they're going to be like, yes, please.
He's also going to be like,
And
remember
to that-
graphene?
To that
Dude,
point,
this is it.
With all the
Industrialization.
talk about Ron DeSantis, I don't see him being able to get anywhere near close.
Here's the deal. Ron DeSantis, fine guy, and his wife. God
Good
bless
job
them.
in
And
Florida.
I know them very well. Don Jr. and I and the president campaigned, vigorously for them, raising money, all of the above, when he was very down at the polls. So Trump's just like, bro, like, I helped you out. I did a great job for you. You were going to lose to this freak show guy down there, and I helped you, and, God bless. How about this? Be smart. Be a strategist. You're doing a good job in Florida. Why don't you continue to actually do your job in Florida? Trump is going to run. He smashed 16 insanely qualified candidates in 2016. I mean, smashed them to living hell. Okay?
Hilariously.
I mean, it's like, that one low energy Jeb, he just fell off the stage, like whatever. And then now you're going to think you're going to go in. You're not. Like, I'm telling you, this guy, and I was the first one to support him at Fox because I knew the man. Like I said, he's my friend for 18 years. I know the measure of the guy. I know what he's capable of. I know that he is somebody that you're not going to be able to defeat. You can't break this guy. You cannot, no matter what happens. It's like he's made from a different whole kind of DNA. Why don't you just run, do your office and then be the appointed one of the, MAGA movement, et cetera, the populist movement, the America First movement, instead of now you're putting yourself up in front of a firing squad of people who are literally so pro-Trump because Trump actually did a good job. We don't have to wonder about the job that he did. He did a great job. Do you want someone going in there with training wheels on to try to fix this mess that they made? Or do you want a guy that can actually do the job and kick ass? Someone who's respected from a national security perspective, okay? Because the rest of them are making a joke out of us. Look at North Korea. Look at crazy, little rocket man. He's going nuts. Vladicat's going nuts. No one cared. They're laughing at the United States. And NATO's like, no one cares because there's nobody of any substance whatsoever. This guy was sitting there talking about chocolate chip ice cream when children were murdered. Is that the leader you want in the White House? That's what I'm saying. So that's why I'm telling you Trump is going to win.
I think Trump's going to win too.
All right, vice president.
So I don't know that I would. There was a period where I said Ron DeSantis maybe. Now I'm thinking. I said Carrie Lake maybe, but I'm seeing a lot of people be like, no, she's too like Trump, and you need kind of that contrast. So
I don't know. She's a female.
I think Carrie
Meaning
Lake.
she's not that like him.
This is what I was saying about the extradition threat and the indictment against Donald Trump. Ron DeSantis' statement was very disappointing to me. I think he's done a great job in Florida. I think he's done a lot of really tremendous things. That's why so many people moved there. So many people voted for him. But he said, look, I'm not going to get involved in this. And my response was, the governor should have said, mark my words, you will not lay a hand on Donald Trump in my state. And Carrie Lake would have said that.
You tweeted Trump 2024.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I saw it. I retweeted it. I retweeted it. Check my feed.
I was a year ago, I was like, I think DeSantis. But things change. And what the problem I had was all I saw from Trump was 2020, just kept talking about it. And so I was just like, I don't see anything here.
I know that annoyed people.
But now,
But you'd be pissed if you thought that, something was taken from you and that you thought votes were counted that, weren't real or actual or, I'm
so
just saying. That's a whole other
If that's what he thinks, I understand his feelings. But all that mattered to me now is, especially seeing East Palestine, going down there, buying McDonald's for people was a grand slam.
Absolutely.
Seeing him put out these videos where he talks about policies that I actually care about.
You like those policy videos? I think they're very good.
Absolutely.
He has specifics. It's not just, flowy rhetoric.
In 2020, around August, I said, okay, I'm going to vote for this guy. I didn't vote for him the first time. I said earlier I probably wouldn't vote for him. But when he released his second term agenda, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. The school choice was huge, getting rid of the critical race theory and government contracts, all of that stuff. And so now him putting out these policy videos, I'm like, Carl Benjamin of the Lotus Eaters podcast hit me up and he says, Tim, you're wrong about DeSantis. Trump has to finish his narrative arc. Let me explain. And he has got this video where he breaks down Trump's story is not over. He has a mission to accomplish. And that did mean something to me. And then when I saw everything, the campaigning he's begun doing, I thought his announcement speech was actually good. A lot of people were like, I didn't like it. I thought it was good. I thought the videos he put out were great. And then what really put me over the 50% mark was when he bought McDonald's for people. And he says, I know the menu better than you do. And then everyone's laughing. And I'm like,
that is a total fact, by the way. Do you know the times I've had McDonald's with him? And I had McDonald's today. And were we not laughing about it and talking about, okay, what is DJT like? I'm like, okay, well, he likes to get the chicken nuggets, likes to get the fish sandwich, likes to get the quarter pounder with the cheese, and blah, blah, blah. This is what we eat.
It's good, huh?
Oh, I fueled myself up with it today.
But I just think
I don't touch that stuff.
when he
so
not
good.
all of it, but I don't like the bread.
I'm not gonna eat McDonald's. But when he bought all the McDonald's for everybody at the White House for that sporting thing, that is personable. It's relatable. When he went to East Palestine, I thought to myself, we had Benny Johnson on. Benny said, Joe Biden literally went to the furthest part of the globe. He went on the other side of the planet from Ohio.
Right.
And then my response was, hey, look.
And on President's Day.
Marianne Williamson announces she's running. Mm-hmm. I think she's a very nice lady. She did not go there. Vivek Ramaswamy, I think he's brilliant. He's amazing.
Yeah,
he did not go. He didn't go there either.
Oh, is that who you want?
Yeah.
No.
And so I'm thinking,
I'll take it back to the nest.
These other people who are running for president didn't bother to go to East Palestine. It's big in the news. These people's lives are destroyed. And Trump's like, I'm going down there. Even if you thought it's a PR stunt, and that's what some people in the corporate left press were saying. They were like, Trump's playing politics. It's a stunt. And I'm like, oh, so if I vote for a guy, my worst case scenario is in an attempt to earn favor with the public, he'll do good things to help them.
He'll do the right thing. And I can tell you it wasn't a stunt.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Because he's not a stunt kind of guy. He actually was like, this is outrageous. This guy's not going. What's wrong with this guy? That's how he talks. And then he's like, I'm going to go there. Then he's going to buy people McDonald's. Loves McDonald's. He loves Pizza Hut. Not trying to throw props up, but I'm just telling you what he eats. He likes that a lot.
Pizza
and
Hut,
then we went to the Kentucky,
No pizza,
KFC?
Papa John's.
Well, your new pizza thing. Yeah. That's
Me and Jack Basoba, we're gonna open a pizza restaurant.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Papa
I
Jack's
would
Pizza
make
Shack.
pizza.
Did you
I'll
see-
build a recipe.
Papa
That
Jack's
sounds
Pizza
delicious.
Shack. I
Like
mean, it
in
sounds
the-
delicious. Pepperoni pizza.
In the American Girl dolls, they released like a 90s classics edition. It's got the Pizza Hut cups that you always talk about. they get the 90s cups, the red cups.
I thought.
And he likes that in Kentucky Fried Chicken, just saying. We went to Kentucky Derby, and I said, it's very good. We're going to go back. We're going to get the Kentucky Fried Chicken. So we had a total feast of that.
You have to be careful.
I wanna
Secret Service
see-
is going to have to jump in front of his diet.
No, they ain't doing it. You know what
Be
they
careful.
They're running the Kentucky Fried Chicken bag down the thing.
you know,
He's a man of the
look,
people.
look.
People find him relatable.
All
He's a
things-
billionaire, but he wants to eat what he wants to eat.
That's
and
why
he's
all
good-
things
good
aside,
health and shape.
all things aside, I want to see Trump's revenge.
I want to see him debate like a real debate where they don't hate each other. They just are straightforward. Like him and if it's DeSantis, whatever. Vivek's great because he's smart. He can talk about economics. Because he needs, I think Trump, he doesn't need it, but humility, if you show him like weak for a moment and then he's able to still find the right way through the weakness.
He's going to do it. Look at those old debates with like Hillary Clinton when she tried to hit him with the tax credit. She's like, you had a chance to get rid of him and you and all your donors are benefiting from it. So yeah, some of them are pretty amazing. Like, but you should have done something about it to change it. So they're on the books. I took advantage of it. Next question. Boom.
I want to see in 2024 Trump get revenge. I want him
on who? Give me the list.
The deep state.
A
The deep
day
state.
of vengeance, man. I don't like it.
No.
Yeah.
Donald Trump wins, and they immediately start accusing him of being a Russian. They run this massive, ridiculous, nonsense investigation, which was just bonkers. They accuse him of doing what Joe Biden did with the quid pro quo in Ukraine. They strapped weights to his ankles, and we still had what Jim Cramer called the best numbers of our lives, despite that guy's got no credibility. But it was so good, even he couldn't have been wrong, which is kind of funny. So 2019, we saw this really great economy, despite all the things they were doing to weigh him down. I want to see Donald Trump get in and actually carry out his agenda untethered, and then fire all of these people and get the job done that he was supposed to get done. A lot of people said he didn't drain the swamp. A lot of people said he did, and all it did was expose the swamp monsters standing in the field.
Swamp has teeth.
The next thing he needs to do is fire them all.
I don't disagree, but just so you understand, this man works like, I don't know, 18 out of 24. I know. He's up super late. He's, awake very early. He is constantly working, constantly writing this stuff down, and he is literally just waiting for that day of reckoning. You just wait and see. Wait and see.
It seems like the tethers, like you were saying,
cover yourself in
untethered.
plastic because this is going to be next level.
I don't know how to move through the tethers. It feels like the system is organized so that it's impossible to defeat it. But I mean, not impossible, obviously. But,
well, look,
and I don't want to hurt
people
things.
say stuff like, like I mentioned, the swamp has teeth and blah, 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 blah. But it actually does, because there are career politicians. There's people in positions that they're actually very difficult to remove. But this is why also I say it's such a great opportunity to have someone that already went in, did a phenomenal job. If you look at all the metrics, across the board, whether it was national security and foreign policy or, manufacturing, infrastructure, record low unemployment, record high numbers of, Latino, female entrepreneurs and businesses, open. There was 1,800 a day at one point of female
Do we have to worry?
businesses.
Do we have to worry about him winning back independents? Because I think that a lot of independents right now don't want to touch him.
Why do you say that? I find that an interesting statement, because I think independents and libertarians and people like that are like, you know what? I don't like what the government's been doing. And
maybe now, maybe
Trump.
now in like,
I think it's better now.
with like that opportunity might be better now, given like what we're experiencing economically and all that stuff. But I just worry that for a lot of it, like, look, a lot of people, like, when I was trying to explain to people why I voted the way I did, because that happened, like people like, why would you vote that way? And I had to give them a list of the things that that I approved of, whether it was the Abraham Accords, whether it's NATO, all these things. You explained it to them. Most of them, first of all, if they're either low info voters or if they're politically left, they're not going to care, because they either don't know what's going on, because the CNN, none of these companies have, none of these media outlets have reported on it anyways, so they're at a disadvantage media wise. But for the independents, I don't know where they go. I think the independents are going to have a hard time.
Well, who are they going to go to? They're not going to go to Biden.
I'm saying, but if he's going to have to beat DeSantis here, in that respect, I think a lot of people see him as a different option.
Well, also just like real quickly, DeSantis is actually hurting himself right now, and it's not smart. And I don't like it, because he's my governor, and I want him to do well. Not standing for Trump, not like saying, Trump is a Floridian. Like, that's one of his
that
people.
Part I
he
agree with you on that.
represents Donald Trump, as somebody who is a taxpayer in Florida and is a resident. So it should be like, no way, hands on this guy. This is outrageous. You could have drag him in, et cetera, for, a made up crime, whatnot. He could have showed courage and leadership. And that was a really rare opportunity. It was a strategic misstep. And he's also going to be very severely injured by Trump. going up against him in any primary. I think it's going to be very difficult. These people
gotta go to
that
Super
love
Chat.
Trump
Let me do
are
this
going to be
last thought real
obsessed.
quick.
Huh?
One of the things I think that the reasons the independents are having concerns with Trump right now is because of the way he handled COVID and giving Fauci all that power and just letting him let go.
He didn't like Fauci one bit. You
Exactly.
didn't know. He hated him.
Nobody really seemed
No one
that I know really liked him.
If you look back at some of those press conferences, like Trump was trying to not let him talk and whatever, he didn't like him at all.
I think that if he acknowledges that he made a mistake, which as somewhat in the past seems out of character for the
What
guy,
is
but it's like
mistake?
putting Fauci in power and letting him run with it after it's
Fauci
obvious.
was already in power.
Fauci, Fauci
but
was
like putting him
already-
on the podium and standing behind him, like that's a big thing.
Well, he was super annoyed.
Can I ask
But
one more?
If he could have thrown
if
him,
he can
would've.
acknowledge that
Oh,
was an
okay.
issue, I think a lot of
Yeah,
people
I mean,
would get
he
on
hit
board.
him actually pretty hard. If you look at some of the Reddit, I get what you're saying. I am no Fauci fan, but Trump's not a Fauci fan now. He was never a Fauci fan, period, full stop, not one day of his life. I am promising you this. What he wanted to do was save lives and try to protect people while not shutting down the American economy and hurting children and schools. Okay, so yes, he tried to get, the vaccination and stuff and find remedies and things like that so that people could actually get some medicine so that you could, curtail the loss of life. Okay, but he wasn't the guy putting, people locking down, elderly establishments and rest homes and putting people in there and letting them die of COVID.
We're going to go to Super Chats, and we'll carry on with that conversation for the members only section because there's a lot to talk about. But for now, I want to make sure we can get in your questions while we're here. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends, and head over to timcast.com, click join us in the menu bar, become a member, and then sign up for our Discord server. And then you can watch our members only uncensored show. It's up on the front page of timcast.com at about 10 p.m. And if you're in the Discord, your chat will be live on the show. And you can even submit questions to call into the show and talk to us yourself. For the time being, we will read your Super Chats. Jordan Henry says, Tim, your deleted tweet about the shooter's different shoes is worth looking into. Those are clearly not the same shoes. WTF. Yes, I tweeted about this earlier because when we were looking at, when I was looking at the surveillance footage released of the shooter, as well as the body camera footage, I noticed the shoes are different.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means or if it means anything. The reason I deleted the tweet right after I posted it was because we're getting ready for the show and I didn't have time to actually pull the videos and then actually make something to be like, hey, this is what I'm talking about. So it looks like it could be artifacting from grainy video, but the surveillance footage actually seems to be high resolution. If you watch the surveillance footage yourself, it does appear that the perpetrator is wearing black shoes with a white streak, but then later in the police body camera footage, the shooter is wearing Vans with a flame on the side of them. All that means potentially, if it's true, because maybe it's just a camera trick that erases the light, erases the color because of the light, it means they changed their shoes. That's not surprising to me in the least bit. It doesn't mean anything. I don't even know what it would mean if it did mean anything at all. So they changed their shoes. Okay. A lot of people are claiming conspiracy theories, and I'm like, all I said was it looks like the shoes are different.
Wait, so it's changed shoes midway through what was going on?
In the opening footage, when the shots go through the door and ripping it open, it looks like the individual is wearing black shoes with white stripes on the right. A white, large, broad stroke. Yeah. Later, in the police body camera footage, the perpetrator is wearing Vans with a thin white stripe and flames on it.
So where did the shoes come from?
Backpack.
Okay.
Or they were carrying stuff. I don't know. Or they took someone's shoes. I mean, you're at a school. There's probably a bunch of shoes in carriers or whatever. Maybe I'm not. This is the problem. You point this out. You're like, oh, that's interesting, and people are like, conspiracy theorist. I didn't say there was a conspiracy. Maybe stepping on broken glass caused damage to the shoes, so she grabbed a pair of shoes from a shoe cubby because it's a school and there's a bunch of shoes in there. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, maybe they should let us know too, right?
Well, yeah, it annoys me when people are like, it's a conspiracy theory if you post that. No, it isn't. It's just two different images that look different. You explain it. I don't care. Anyway, let's read some more. All right. Goldilocks Production says, man, YouTube must be pissed at Timcast because their live stream, which usually shows up on my recommended side every night, would not show up, and I had to come to their channel to find it. They said something they didn't like Monday. Yeah,
conspiracy theory.
That's probably true. Well, so the issue is
Theorist.
YouTube probably would love to put some restrictions on us. They probably do. But so many people choose to come to this show every night, the shadow banning and suppression doesn't work that well. because people
Look,
just
you
want
got
to
a
watch.
massive following. There is, that's not fake news, all right? But that's why I'm on Rumble, because they be canceling me and Don Jr. every day. I mean, to be honest with you, and I watch your show on there too, because I know that I'm going to get something, even if you can't put it up or you got to take it down, because in good conscience you try to abide, by the rules and whatnot. If you put it on Rumble, it doesn't matter if it's me, it's you, it's Bongino, it's any of them, like Russell Brand, it's Glenn Greenwald. Like, there are a variety of opinions on there, and it's uncensored. I'm just very against, having been in corporate media for a zillion years, okay, of what they do now to censor everybody's viewpoints. And you have to watch everything you say. Otherwise, you're going to be canceled, try to destroy you, destroy your family, clickbait, fake articles about you, create a whole hysteria. It's sad, because this should be the marketplace of ideas.
We're probably going to start simulcasting. So
I think you should. It's my strong recommendation.
there's a lot of challenges associated with it. As to why we have not yet. They're both cultural, political, and technological, but we probably will, just because I think, we might do what Crowder does. Apparently, Crowder will just mute YouTube if he thinks the show's too spicy, so the people watching on YouTube just get dead air, and then let YouTube explain to people why they're getting dead air on their favorite show. All right, let's read some more. We got Callum Dimmick. He says, the Daily Wire standard of don't give money to people who hate you, give it to us instead, falls apart when they do Black Rifle Coffee Company sponsorships. I've been very disappointed with them recently. Well, go to castbrew.com. They teed me up.
Oh my God.
So we're planning on doing.
Who sent that in?
we can't right now set up the subscriptions because it's a pre-order phase. We are now at the process where we're going to start the roast on the coffee. So when you order it, it is being made fresh right now for the first time.
That's pretty cool.
Once we establish the chain of production, then we're going to launch the subscriptions, so you can get 2 bags of coffee delivered every month. Easiest way to do it. Easiest way. That's how Black Rifle Coffee does it.
And ground coffee you were mentioning earlier versus doing, because most people don't have the grinders or whatever. But you'll, I guess, provide that later on.
Well, we're going to get whole beans soon. Right
Whole
now,
beans.
Right
And
now, the
then
coffee's
also,
all ground.
Can I just make a special request? Are you going to make some K-cups and
Yes.
stuff? All right, just saying.
Yep.
Biodegradable?
I believe.
Yes,
I
of
believe
course.
so.
Language. All right.
I'm not entirely sure. They might not be.
I don't
But,
want to offend the Paris Climate Change Accord.
For the time being, we have the
Those
pre-orders
assholes.
will ship around May 5th. They are, it's all coffee ground. It's ground
Right.
coffee. And then we are going to be rolling out, once the production is finally rolling, the whole bean option, multiple new varieties. Right now we just have the 4 to start. The coffee shop should be opening in a couple of months as well, which is really exciting. Hopefully, I mean, these things take time. And then once the coffee production is rolling, we're going to set up subscriptions. And that's the most important thing, because you become a member at Cast Brew, and then you'll get your coffee delivered every month on time. And then I actually, I'm trying to figure out some kind of coffee box kind of deal, where it's you'll get,
Sample. Of each?
well, you'll get other things too.
Oh.
So
Little frothing thing, something.
yeah, Roberto Jr. sticker, who knows? But we got to
That's
figure
your
that stuff
favorite.
out.
You want to go with the light roast right now, you said.
Well, I'm typically a dark roast kind of person.
Right.
But just because it's Rise with Roberto Jr. breakfast blend.
You're into it.
Yeah, because Roberto Jr. he's the best. He's a superstar.
Higher caffeine content in the lighter
Yes.
roasts.
Yeah, Roberto Jr. is a superstar. So
You have to need the caffeine to do your high energy show
Every
all
night,
Yeah,
almost,
no
for me.
joke.
Ooh, that's...
All right.
Oh, also, is there going to be a discount? I think
So-
you should offer a discount, a promo code if people sign up and they, subscribe to your coffee on a monthly basis. You get a
Yes,
discount.
we're planning
Going
on
forward.
having it so that every month, if you're a member, the cost of the coffee reduces until it gets to the point where it's really, really cheap.
Then it's free.
Not free, because someone's got to grow the beans, roast the beans, pack the beans, and
That would be
ship them,
socialism.
you know what
We're not for that.
I mean, economic collapse. But the general idea is, if after 3 months it's 10% off, after 6 months it's 20% off, and then it goes way down. So where
That's
after
a good model. You're rewarding the, economic longevity and loyalty of your consumer base.
yeah, and I'm thinking after a year it goes way down. Right now it's $15.99 per bag, and then I think we can get them even down to $8 a bag after a year, because it all adds up. The more members we sign up, then the cheaper it is in the long run, because You know how it works with bulk. Like the more you sell, the lower price you can get it down.
Then you're just battling inflation all the way down.
Yep.
All the way down. Fantastic.
And then if we have to raise because of inflation, then we do.
I think you should like throw in like some like a coffee cup or something like that, or you can do little
Yes,
like
we
holiday
have,
or gift packages with that. I think
we
it's
have a
very nice.
club
Like a bundle.
that offers mugs, and it's Louder with Roberto Bug Club.
Club mug.
I'm just kidding. We made those as a gag, and it's
Crowder
Roberto Jr. laying like Steven Crowder does.
But now people
And we
love
have
it.
mugs. But I don't know if we'll actually do that because I mean, that mug club is his thing. You know what I mean? All right, let's read some more super chats. Bradley Meyer says the Nashville shooter had another target in mind. However, after she did a threat assessment, she decided it was too secure. Democrats voted against Securing Schools Act and Protect Our Children Act. Yep. That's right.
I heard there was like a different building. Isn't that the case? It was a different building
Yes.
that she was going to. And there was like, it was guard. There was a guard on duty,
Yes,
so she couldn't.
that's what I was referencing earlier in the program and about the 8 o'clock
That's crazy.
hour.
All right, let's grab some more.
It was the whole hard target versus soft target.
All right, this is from Schlongathan McTwinkletwat.
That is not real.
That's the name.
That is not your government name,
Did you?
sir.
Yes. Did you see that the Restrict bill is not about banning TikTok at all, but is the Patriot Act for the internet on steroids and meth?
Wow.
Oh, wow, both.
It gets louder
Ian,
every day.
did you send that super chat?
That wasn't me. It was actually someone
sure?
else's nose. Yeah.
That username could have been you. I don't know.
But-
man.
Oh, by the way, yeah.
But it actually does let them ban TikTok.
Check his VPN.
Yeah.
It just lets them ban everything else, like VPNs.
VPN.
Which I do use. I like
ExpressVPN.
VPNs. I don't have one on right
Yeah,
now.
how many like YouTubers would be out of work if they couldn't like advertise VPNs to their fans? That's what we
Oh,
need to do.
by the way, literally.
Uh-oh, I'm receiving a correction.
What happened?
Apparently, we do offer whole bean right now.
Oh,
Okay.
my God.
I'm a terrible spokesperson, apparently.
Whoa, bean.
Well, it's because the graphic just says ground, but I'm an idiot.
I like
yes.
whole bean because it
When you
holds
go to the
moisture
website, you can select between either ground or whole bean. They're both available right now.
for each blend.
Yep.
Excellent.
So you can get.
I'm glad you
I'm
cleared that
definitely ordering the Rise with Roberto Jr. whole bean. I'll
Yeah,
do
I
the
like whole
grinding
bean.
myself.
It holds the oils, and then when you finally get that fresh oil when you break it
Maybe
apart.
you should have like a Rise with Roberto, like coffee little grinder thing too. Just smash those beans up.
Little hand crank grinders they sell.
Yes.
Yeah.
People might like it.
Or a little Roberto face, and you break them up yourself. All right,
Roberto
all right.
Bobble bean crusher.
Little Roberto Jr. merch. We have a Roberto Jr. flag. He's a superstar, man. He's so chill. If you go out to Chicken City when he's out with the ladies, he's really nice. And he just stands there and he's looking at you and he minds his own business. His dad, Roberto, was a dick. He attacked me
Really?
once. He jumped and kicked me.
Roberto, you can't make
Was this provoked?
No.
He was misgendered as a child, and I'm being serious. We thought he was a hen. We got a bunch of hens, and it turned out one of the hens was a rooster.
I heard it out there when I came up. I was like, no, really?
Yeah.
You got him out there.
I don't know if that's
Ro-
why
Ro-
he grew up upset.
But
Do
Roberto.
you get those eggs?
Oh, yeah. We have like 150 downstairs right now. You can
You
take
know,
a cart when
eggs
you go.
were in a serious shortage.
No, not us. We got
you
too
may
many.
need to get in the egg business.
But I think because we hatched Roberto Jr. and raised him, he's chill with people. So he looks at you and he's just like, they're all right. They bring me food. But let's get to the serious news and read some super chats. All right. What do we got here? Let's grab one of these. Agamemnon's Gym Bag says, Brett, excited for Friday with the non-evil Aiden. If you're not familiar, check him out. He's like Luke, but he talks about Bigfoot.
Yes, definitely non-evil Aiden. Yeah, Lore Lodge will be on Pop Culture Crisis with us on Friday. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
All right, Mr. Squeaky says, we have armed guards in banks because we value money, but kids in schools? It's an interesting point.
well, I agree.
Yeah, man.
That's actually one of those few times where it's like, I avoid political discussions online at all costs. I'm not here. I don't want to debate with people on the internet. You don't actually, in my opinion, you don't reach a lot of people that way because most people, if they're willing to argue with you on the internet, they're already set in their beliefs anyways. Very rarely, I don't remember the last time I heard somebody say, "You have changed my mind about that." When you're in a one-on-one argument, maybe it happens.
Such a good point.
But at some point, for some reason, it was during Uvalde, I broke down and I made some post about it, about the, why are we not Army, putting security guards outside of schools, of all the things to allow myself to get sucked into the debate about. And somebody, a friend of mine said, that was really abhorrent. My idea, it's a good idea. They just want to ban the guns. They just
Your
imagine
friend
that,
was mad at you.
Well, just my friend, just like his
Was
idea.
abhorrent. That your
Yeah.
idea about it and voicing it was abhorrent.
And well, and a lot
Are
of
you
those
still
people.
friends?
Yeah, we're still friends.
All right.
Like I'm willing to overlook a lot of that stuff because I know a lot of it drives people nuts and they get blind spots when it comes to political arguments.
Difference of opinion is okay.
And we can still have our discussions, and hopefully you can reach them in that way. But they're just in their mind, gun control, getting rid of guns is the only answer. And a lot of people, it's very hard to change their mind about that because they have utopian thinking.
Because they're not smart enough to understand that 3D printed guns exist
Yeah.
and they can't ban them. It's insane. All right. Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, how about creating the correct culture is the right response? More positivity, less fear-mongering. They say to be inclusive, but they hate us others, hate Christianity, hate families, hate themselves. There's this new show on TLC. It's called like Seeking Brother Husband. And it's about women who want second husbands and then their husband's reaction to it. And I'm just like, the family is being destroyed.
Yep. Well, I mean,
what
that's
the heck
like,
is that?
Yep.
MILF
TLC,
Manor
man.
is
It's like
MILF
sister
Manor.
wife, but like brother husband.
yeah.
So is that what it is?
Sounds like it.
Is that like
First
a
I've heard of
feminist
it.
movement of some
Reality
sort?
TV has been slowly destroying the culture far faster than 2016 and all of the culture war stuff. Far faster. There's a show called MILF Manor or MILF Manor right now. It's maybe the most hilariously bad show on television.
You sound addicted to it.
We talked about it on the show, but I don't recommend anyone going to watching it or assuming that is the way you want to live your life.
Or what about my 1,000-pound life or
Yeah.
whatever goes on there?
Well, people are always going to have an attraction to the bizarre and in the unnatural. So
Yeah, it's like a circus freak show.
All right, let's see what we got here. We'll grab some more super chats. Quantum Strange Quark says, if you could supernaturally stop everyone in their tracks and tell them one thing, what would be the most effective message to snap people back to reality?
Oh, like
Nobody?
if you could actually change their wiring?
and say what?
I know.
Repeat the question.
If you could
Yeah.
say
I don't know if I
anything
can
to
say it on
everyone to
YouTube.
wake them
Get
up.
get off social media.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to do
Probably.
it, but it's probably a very healthy thing to do. And when you think about it and what goes on in there, and just like the spin, it's like a dead spin and a group think and craziness.
Is
How
the
long?
idea that they would believe whatever
know.
you said, or just that
Maybe
they would be able
forever.
to hear you? Because if they were actually
Let's
to
just
believe
let's
whatever
just
you
simplify
said,
it because I don't understand why it's so difficult.
Yeah.
What could you say to people to wake them up? Like what do people need to hear? To get away from the cult.
Don't trust the
Some,
media.
some military
Yeah,
might
I
use
was gonna say that.
nanothermite to melt the beams on the World Trade Centers. I don't
Okay,
know.
that is
Wait, what?
way out of the ballpark.
I know, but you just gave me carte blanche, so that's
Well,
my
but I'm
life.
pretty sure people would just look at you like you were crazy if you said
But
that.
I thought
They
I could,
didn't
if I
know.
could just change their wiring, not have to explain it, just fix it. That's what I would do.
the media is lying to you. I think is the absolute easiest one.
Right, we
It's
agree on
making them
that.
believe it and helping them understand that it is absolutely true is the hard part.
I think they're
Yep.
starting to come around.
Yeah, a lot of people.
What would you say, Tim?
What would I say to people?
Yeah, what would you?
I would like. I think the challenge is it's not so much about a sentence or anything you can say, but I love this video by the Lincoln Project where they take DeSantis out of context to make it seem like he didn't know where he was on 9/11. Or actually, a better example is the Shinzo Abe Trump moment, where they edited the video to make it seem like Trump was dumping food into the Koi pond, when in fact he was just following the lead of Shinzo Abe.
That was his great friend, by the way.
Shinzo?
Yes, he was very devastated when he died.
Oh, yeah. Sad to hear.
Such a great guy.
Most of
But-
that stuff is what wakes a person up when they're actually looking to be like
Right.
when they're actually looking for information. Right. For me, it was all of the very fine people speech, and then actually going and reading about what it is. It's the MS-13 stuff talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That was the
They're
one for me
animals.
where I was like, it was such an abhorrent lie. It was such a stretching of what was being said that I couldn't trust anything.
Brandon Strauch said the same thing.
Yeah.
That he was trying to prove someone else wrong.
Yeah.
Because Trump did the hand thing. And he was like, then he actually watched a video and saw that Trump wasn't mocking this guy over his disability. He does that for anybody and everybody as a
Remember
mockery.
how bad that is? Like that whole story, and then you see like Trump's done it like 1,000 times.
Yep.
It's just
They set him up. I think they set that up on purpose.
And how do you go back? The thing is, how do you go back once you're woken up to that? And a lot of
Yep.
people, was it Cernovich? Is like, I wish you could throw up the red pill sometimes. Like you wish you could, right? But how do
He's
you
coming back around too.
How
by
do
the
you
way.
go back after you realize that if they're going to lie about this, they're going to lie about literally anything?
Anything. So you can't trust them. There's literally like jury instructions about believability and credibility of a witness. And if you find that someone has lied, even one time in a material fact or misrepresented, etc., you can disregard their testimony in its entirety. I.e., a good example, convicted felon Michael Cohen, but that's another story.
All right. Lillian May Briggs says, will the coffee shop have truck parking? So the coffee shop is in a small town downtown space, but there is a large public parking lot just behind it. So it does have parking, I believe, for anybody.
Is it going to be like the new Friends with like the coffee shop and people hang out and play guitar and sing songs about cats?
I don't know about that. Maybe. It's 3 stories. The first floor is going to be general, open to the public, coffee shop, hangout. There's a mezzanine, and that's going to be Ian's Crystal Cove, where it's going to be like a chill hangout, like put up a curtain where it's kind of dark and a movie's
Lava
playing.
lamps and stuff?
Yes.
I'm into it.
Crystals.
Lava
Then the
walls.
second floor is going to be the hangout space with games. We're probably going to have a small, like a skate shop section where you can buy gear for your skates or your scoots or your blades or whatever you got. And then probably have like a pool table and table game set up for the hangout.
By the way, kind of like here.
Yes. And then but public. And the third floor is
Right.
the elite club where you have to be a member of the Timcast Elite Club to go and hang out. And that's going to be like fully stocked fridges, all the food's free, like a social club. You go up, you hang out, like-minded people are there, they're playing video games, they're watching shows, they're, drinking coffees or whatever.
Charcuterie, like cured meats
Yeah.
and things like that. I want to go to that floor.
It won't be nearly as fancy. So like, New York social clubs are like $50,000 a year. Ours is going to be like $1,200 per year because it's $100 a month.
Got it.
But then we want to create a space where we want to create there's value to those social clubs in New York and a reason why people spend that money. Because if you're somebody who works in a magazine, you spend that $50,000, you're all of a sudden hanging out with a guy who works at a TV network and you're like, hey, we're doing a big ad campaign.
It's a whole networking thing.
Exactly. And it allows people to share resources and become more powerful.
It's like Soho House, Zero Bond in New
Exactly.
York.
We got to create something like that out here, substantially cheaper, substantially smaller, but create that networking space where people who are trying to start businesses, work in the cultural space, can network with each other. And so that's the ultimate goal.
I think you should tier it so that the people who are like early adopters and they can get in at a good, rate, et cetera, to try and drive like that membership. And then it can go up. I mean, it's working places.
Right now, people
Like
can
Mar
sign
11.
up for the Discord chat. That's all we really have. But we're going to do meetups. So maybe we're probably going to do a meetup in Austin when we're doing our live show. So if you're in the Elite Club, it's going to be like 20 people hanging out somewhere super private. But that's the idea. We want to get people in on the community and the culture building and create something of value for them. So it's like, you support us. We have a special club where you can hang out, and then we want to create more and more benefits. But speaking of self-promotion, Leland Taylor says, just listen to Bright Eyes for the first time, and I got to say, wow. As a musician myself, I am really impressed. My wife and kids were equally impressed. My wife had no idea you were a musician. This is the 4th song we've put out. You can purchase the song at trashhouserecords.com. If all of you listening right now do, then we will shatter the Billboard charts and rank once again for the 4th time. For 3 of us.
Well, you're a really good singer. I heard you just sing like a cappella, like downstairs and
Oh, thank
everything
you.
before the show.
Just
and I was
hanging
like,
out.
and I was looking, I was like, because I was thinking that was on the TV and it was playing, but then it was you singing while you
Yeah.
were playing pool.
Yeah, I think I was singing Soundgarden or something.
They're so good.
Soundgarden.
I've been singing Porch by Pearl Jam
Love it.
for 48 hours, man.
Keep doing it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so
comforting.
admittedly, so with this song, we didn't do as heavy a promotion with the other ones because I want to see what the organic pull is so far. So with the first, with Only Ever Wanted and Genocide, the songs we put out, we did a big marketing push and we got like 1 million plus hits in a week. This song, I've done 0 promotion on the YouTube video and it's already got like 150,000 hits.
Wow.
That's what we want to see. We want to see the organic reach of a song with 0 promotion. And that's tremendous. It's better than a lot of musicians. So not trying to be a dick or anything, but I'm saying like we're doing well with your support. And I'm hoping that we can get enough sales. So Bandcamp banned us because they're super woke, which makes it harder for us to chart.
I get it.
So, but hopefully if people go to trashhouserecords.com and purchase the song for 69 cents or whatever they want to give, we will hit the Billboard charts
Hey, I've
once
got
again.
a question for you.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because you're obviously presenting with a diversified portfolio, okay, about a lot of different interests that you're somebody obviously that likes to, challenge sort of the main news media infrastructure by doing the program that you guys are doing, but you also enjoy music. So you're a musician, you love that. Entrepreneur because you're doing the coffee and you want to do like the restaurant. All skateboarder. I saw you play with a little skateboarder, little
I got a tech deck right here.
That's cute. And so I had to buy like 17 of those for our kids. I like it. Safer than the real thing, me getting on it. What's your bliss? You know, when they say to you, like, follow your bliss, what you actually, like, your true passion, whether, you know, some people are like artists, musicians, but somebody loves to paint, but they like make furniture in order to support their love of painting. Like, how would you characterize yourself for like your listeners out there that are trying to get to the essence, the core of who you are?
I like complaining about things.
Yeah, well, that's fun for everyone.
Yeah, that's why I made a living out of it.
So do little old ladies with blue hair. We all love it.
And I like solving problems. I like understanding how things work and then trying to assess what the issue is that people are having with it and fixing it. And so it's easy to complain about things. It's hard to fix. But that's why all of the money we make, I should say, like, a better way to phrase it is all of our excess resources from this show are going into producing cultural endeavors for the purpose of winning a culture war. Because so few people in the culture war are not making culture. How are you going to win it if you don't have any?
Sure.
So granted, people are like, Tim, all you do is make your own music and Cast Castle is just your own building. And I'm like, well, we're getting there. We do have a documentary on the Federal Reserve, which I believe is about to launch. Ben sent it over.
Ben Stewart. Oh,
perfect
good.
timing with the banking crisis. Let's get this out.
Exactly.
So we also have Lauren Southern working on a documentary about gun control.
I had a song coming out with Adelita's Way that I did. It's going to be
right.
great.
So and we're doing the coffee shop. I just want the idea with the coffee shop is we want to do something called Saturday morning cartoons.
Sure.
Saturday morning, families come and bring their kids. We're going to have cartoons on the TVs. There's going to be like a breakfast buffet or something. The parents can hang out with each other. The kids can hang out with each other. The cartoons are approved by the family. So it's like...
not weirdo, woke, Disney stuff.
Exactly. And so what we're creating is effectively a light version of church community gathering. It's not going to be based around religion like church is. But for a lot of people who don't have that, it's a step in the right direction of bringing people together once a week.
Community.
Yeah. Once a week in the morning with their kids to learn real values and share ideas with each other and help organize. That's what churches were doing for so long. And now that people are losing that, they've lost it. So we want to create something for people who don't have that. I think that's going to go a long way. And I'm hoping within a few years, we have like 50 different coffee shop locations around the country that do this. And we'll make money doing it. And we'll put that money back into more culture and community building.
Would be good to replace as much Disney as possible. Did you see that
laying
they're
off?
7,000 layoffs by April 3rd they're going through right now?
That doesn't work.
They laid off their Meta division today, as if anybody cares about like a Disney metaverse division that's not doing anything.
How crazy is that?
All right, here's what we're going to do. First, just to address, I see Enlightened Fool says, I miss the member chat. Become a member at timcast.com. And when you do, you get access to our members chat, which is in the Discord server, which is wholesome and academic and brilliant arguments as people sit in their velvet robes smoking corncob pipes. Join timcast.com and join the Discord server if you want that chat. And you can actually submit questions for the call-in show, which we're going to be going to live in about 10 minutes. So the uncensored portion of the show will be up on the front page of the website, as I said, in about 10 minutes. So become a member, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show if you really do like it. They try to censor us and shut us down, but everybody sharing it makes it very difficult for them to do so. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally everywhere at Timcast. Kimberly, do you want to shout anything out?
Oh, yeah. I just want to say, if you could follow me, I'd be really appreciative. I'm a really nice Irish Puerto Rican girl from way back, at Kimberly Guilfoyle on Rumble. And a shout out for my sweetheart at Donald Trump Jr. is also on Rumble. We love it. It's so freeing. I feel like so excited to just sort of be, my own boss, get out there, say what I want, do the programs that I want without any of this, hyper management, critical, consensus group think. So it's cool. And I have to just say, honestly, I'm super excited to be on this program and be with you guys.
Right on. I want to address,
Cool
I see Florida Aerial Media in the member chat saying many of us watch on TV. Why would we want to chat on Discord? Fear not, because we're actually going to be rolling out our own chat app and the Timcast app coming out soon. So you'll be able to go on the app and actually chat, and that will be probably a whole lot easier. But also, Brett.
I have something I want to say before we go. Hollywood, I saw your post about making an X-Files reboot, and I say no. You are not allowed to do that. You cannot do that, and I will petition till the day I die that you do not allow an X-Files reboot to be made. No go. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Brett Dasovic. Pop Culture Crisis is live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube. A lot of this stuff is really serious, and we have a lot of fun in there. We talk a little bit about politics as it connects to Hollywood, celebrities, all that good stuff. Come join us.
You guys follow me at Ian Crossland. Anywhere on the internet, really, you can find me. And Kimberly, thanks again. And remind people, Kim Guilfoyle on Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter, and everywhere else is at Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Kimberly Guilfoyle on Rumble is where you do your show.
Yeah.
And it's
Monday and Thursday at 4 o'clock. And thank you so much for the kind inquiry.
Yeah, 4 o'clock Eastern?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Serge.
Yeah, that was a good one. Find me on Twitter, argue with me at Serge.com. See you there.
We will see all of you in about 10 minutes at timcast.com for the members only uncensored. Thanks for hanging out.